Chapter 738. As he explained his condition, he kept burping. Although this kind of scene looked a little funny, his face was really in pain. People would feel very comfortable if they occasionally burped, and they could even accept it if they burped twice. However, if they burped continuously, even when they were sleeping at night, it would be an extremely painful experience. After that, Rooney asked again, "Mr. Zhang, have you seen a Chinese medicine practitioner during this period?" The middle-aged man said, "Why not? I've visited all the famous doctors except for those who are very difficult to make an appointment with, but it still didn't work." Rooney's mouth turned up and a smile bloomed on his face. Finally, he could save some face in front of Chinese medicine practitioners. He said, "Mr. Zhang, don't worry. I've developed a new drug recently. It has a special effect on your disease. It not only works faster than last time, but also lasts longer." The middle-aged man said with joy, "Really, President Rooney? Thank you so much." Rooney nodded and then looked at Qin Haodong proudly. "Mr. Qin, I have to say that there are some diseases that you Chinese medicine practitioners can't cure. Only we can cure them." Qin Haodong couldn't help shaking his head with a wry smile when he saw the foreigner showing off to him. Rooney said, "What's wrong, Mr. Qin? Are you still not convinced?" Qin Haodong said, "President Rooney, this kind of disease doesn't need to take medicine at all. Under your treatment, not only does he need to take medicine for a long time, but he will also relapse regularly. I really don't know what you are proud of." Then he turned to the middle-aged man and said, "If I'm not wrong, this medicine must be expensive, right? Of course it's not cheap. It costs tens of thousands of yuan every month, but I have no choice but to treat the disease." The middle-aged man showed a wry smile, but he felt that what he said might be a little inappropriate. He hurriedly looked at Rooney, for fear that he would annoy the vice president of the World Medical Association and refuse to treat him. Rooney's face immediately darkened. Curing Mr. Zhang's disease had always been one of the things he was proud of. At this time, he was belittled by Qin Haodong, so he was naturally very dissatisfied. "Mr. Qin, you just heard that Mr. Zhang has seen many Chinese medicine practitioners, but they can't do anything about it. It was me who cured him." "Mr. Rooney, let me correct you. You didn't cure him. You only alleviated Mr. Zhang's symptoms. You didn't get rid of the root cause." Rooney was not convinced and said, "Mr. Qin, it's already a great thing to be able to alleviate the symptoms of a disease for which we can't find the cause at all. Only the high-end talents of our World Medical Association can develop this kind of medicine." Qin Haodong shook his head and said to the middle-aged man, "Are you having an attack now?" The middle-aged man said as he hiccuped, "Yes, it's relapsing again in the past few days, but it's not the most serious state. At the most serious state, he would hiccup every 3 to 5 seconds. Let me tell you, although this disease doesn't kill people, and it doesn't affect eating and drinking, it is so painful that I want to die. There were a few times when I wanted to commit suicide. Don't worry, I can cure your illness, and you don't need to take medicine. It's just a little painful, but it will be over soon." The middle-aged man said with surprise, "Little brother, you're not lying to me, are you?" Rooney said, No, that's impossible. "Mr. Qin, you're bragging. Whether I'm bragging or not, we'll see the result soon." Qin Haodong smiled and then said to the middle-aged man, "Take a deep breath first, and I'll help you treat it right away." The middle-aged man took a deep breath as instructed, but when he was inhaling, Qin Haodong suddenly punched him in the stomach. The punch was so powerful that the middle-aged man was caught off guard. He immediately curled up in pain and sat on the ground. The people around were stunned. They didn't know what was wrong with Qin Haodong. Why did he suddenly hit the middle-aged man? Rooney was stunned for a moment, then he came to his senses and cried, "Mr. Qin, you can't do this. How can you hit my patient? It's very immoral." After a short pain, the middle-aged man slowly stood up from the ground and shouted at Qin Haodong angrily, "What are you doing? Why did you hit me?" Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Mr. Zhang, I've already told you that my treatment method is a little painful, but it will be over soon. Are you cured now?" Only then did the middle-aged man realize that he really didn't hiccup. He said excitedly, "Yes, I'm really cured. Little brother, you are really a magic doctor." In order to treat this strange disease over the years, he had almost spent all his money and seen famous doctors all over the world, but none of them worked. He didn't expect that he would be cured by Qin Haodong's punch. Rooney's mouth was wide open, and he looked even more shocked than before. He didn't expect that his disease, which was an excellent case, would be cured by a punch. "Mr. Qin, your treatment method is really special. Is he completely cured now?" Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "No, it will probably relapse in 2 years." Mr. Zhang said, "It doesn't matter. 2 years is a long time. I'll ask you to give me another punch in 2 years at most." Although the punch just made him suffer a little, it was nothing compared with the suffering he had suffered in seeking medical treatment everywhere. Although the World Medical Association finally received him, he had also suffered countless disdain and humiliation. Qin Haodong said, "There's no need to be so troublesome. As long as the cause is found, it can be cured completely." The middle-aged man's eyes suddenly widened. "Little brother, can you really find the cause of my disease?" He had used countless advanced instruments, but he hadn't found the cause. If Qin Haodong hadn't just relieved his disease, he would have thought that he had met a madman. Qin Haodong said, "Your physique is very special. If I'm not wrong, it should be a congenital cold physique. You have been afraid of cold since you were a child." The middle-aged man kept nodding and said, "Little brother, you are right. I am indeed like this." Qin Haodong continued, "With your physique, you should find a place with a strong yang qi to live, but you moved to a place with a strong yang qi a few years ago. If I'm not wrong, your family should live by the water." The middle-aged man carefully recalled, and then cried excitedly, "Little brother, you are right. I bought a house with a water view by the lake 3 years ago, and soon after the disease began." Qin Haodong said, "That's the problem. Your physique is not suitable for living by the water." The middle-aged man said excitedly, "Little brother, do you mean that as long as I move, this disease can be completely cured?" "Yes. In addition, you should quit smoking and drinking according to your physique. Eat less cold drinks and cold food. Eat more black beans, mutton, and other food that can promote blood and strengthen yang." "I see, little brother. Thank you so much." Then he opened his handbag, took out 2 stacks of new Huaxia currency and put them in Qin Haodong's hand. "Little brother, this is the consultation fee. Don't think it's too little." Qin Haodong returned the money to him. "Forget it. Today we are lecturing, not visiting. The consultation fee is waived." Seeing that Qin Haodong insisted, the middle-aged man could only take the money back. Then he asked, "Little brother, tell me your name. I want to know who my benefactor is." "He is Qin Haodong, the medical sage of Huaxia." With a stiff Huaxia language, Alice walked slowly to the podium. She glanced at her men and said, "Rooney, Nedved, what do you think? Are you guys convinced now?" Although Rooney was stubborn, he was still convinced by Qin Haodong's medical skills after all. He said sincerely, "President Alice, we are really convinced. Chinese medicine is really a very magical medicine. It's worth learning and studying." The others also followed suit. "President Alice, we're convinced. President Alice, we have all misunderstood Chinese medicine. It is indeed a magical medical skill. Mr. Qin is the best doctor I have ever seen. There is no one like him." Seeing that Qin Haodong had conquered these arrogant foreigners with his strength, won glory for Huaxia, and made Chinese medicine famous, the classroom immediately burst into warm applause. The applause was as loud as thunder and lasted for a long time. When the applause faded, Alice said to Qin Haodong, "Dear Qin, on behalf of the World Medical Association, I invite you to join us. Would you like to join us?" Hearing this, the students who had just calmed down became excited again. The World Medical Association represented the world's top medical skills. Although some Huaxia people had joined before, they were all Western medicine practitioners. If Qin Haodong could join the World Medical Association, he would be the first Chinese medicine practitioner in the world, which represented the world's recognition of Chinese medicine. Xiao Weiman and Wan Taisong looked at Qin Haodong excitedly, expecting him to accept Alice's invitation. But Qin Haodong shook his head. With the alien demons around, how could he have time to work in the World Medical Association? Miss Alice, thank you for your invitation, but the World Medical Association is not suitable for me. Seeing that Qin Haodong refused Alice's olive branch, everyone was shocked. They did not understand why he would give up such a rare opportunity. Dear Qin, why did you refuse me? Well, as long as you agree, I will appoint you as the Vice President of the World Medical Association. This is already my greatest power. Unexpectedly, Alice did not give up. On the contrary, she increased the weight of her invitation. Now there was only one Vice President of the World Medical Association, Rooney. If Qin Haodong joined, he would become the second Vice President, second only to the President. Oh my God, that's great. If I were Mr. Qin, would immediately accept the invitation. Yes, this is the honor of our Huaxia medical community, the honor of Chinese medicine. Everyone cheered excitedly. In their opinion, Mr. Qin would definitely not refuse this time. But to everyone's surprise, Qin Haodong shook his head again and said, President Alice, I really don't have time to work in the World Medical Association. I still have a lot of things to do. Alice was also quite surprised. The offer was already very generous. Qin, what on earth do you want to do? Are you going to save the earth? Qin Haodong smiled. What he wanted to do was really to save the earth. If the alien demons invaded, the whole earth would become their territory. Miss Alice, you're right. I really want to save the earth. He was telling the truth, but it sounded like a joke to Alice. Well, Qin, I invite you to be the honorary vice president of the World Medical Association. You don't have to go there at ordinary times. You can go there to exchange medical skills when you have time. Is that okay? Qin Haodong thought for a moment. It was not a bad choice to be the honorary president. He could go there when he had time. He could also improve the reputation of Chinese medicine. He said, President Alice, I accept your invitation. The 9th update. Chapter 739. Seeing that Qin Haodong had finally accepted her invitation, Alice excitedly turned around and said to all the members of the delegation, according to the regulations of our World Medical Association, we need to make a joint decision to recruit new members. Now I appoint Qin Haodong as the nominal vice president of the World Medical Association. Let's vote. Everyone was happy for Qin Haodong just now, but they didn't expect that they would need to vote. They immediately became nervous again, and all the students present looked at the members of the World Medical Association. I agree. James raised his right hand high and was the first to stand up. I agree too. Unexpectedly, the second one to stand up was Rooney. It seemed that he had been completely conquered by Qin Haodong. The third one was Nedved, and the fourth one was Goulet. 10 seconds later, all the members of the delegation of the World Medical Association raised their right hands, including Alice, who was standing on the stage. In the end, Qin Haodong officially became the vice president of the World Medical Association with a unanimous vote. Qin, from now on, you are one of us. Alice gave Qin Haodong a big hug and kissed him on the cheek, which made Qin Haodong feel that this beautiful foreign girl was taking the opportunity to take advantage of him. There was a thunderous applause, and everyone gave Qin Haodong a warm round of applause. At this time, Xiao Weiman stepped onto the podium and said to the crowd, Students, please be quiet. I have another important thing to announce. On behalf of the Ministry of Health, I award Dr. Qin the Best Medical Contribution Award. He was not impulsive. The blood revival elixir developed by Qin Haodong had benefited millions of leukemia patients in Huaxia, so he deserved this title. The medal had been prepared for a long time, but he had not found a suitable opportunity to receive it. Today, he happened to be in class. He took out the medal from his pocket and solemnly put it on Qin Haodong's chest. The moment he put on the medal, the students below the stage cheered again and applauded. Looking at Qin Haodong standing on the stage, Huang Fusheng and Gu Xiaoyan had an indescribable feeling in their hearts. Gu Xiaoyan, in particular, suddenly said in her heart, "You ignored me yesterday, but you can't afford me today." In the past, she had only treated it as a joke, but today, it was displayed in front of her. She had once given up on this man, but today, he had become so outstanding. He was so outstanding that she had to look up to him. There was no chance for her to climb up the social ladder. Huang Fusheng's heart was full of frustration. In the past, the most important thing he could show off in front of Qin Haodong was his family background. His family was considered rich in Wufeng County, with millions of property. However, Qin Haodong had donated hundreds of millions of yuan, which was several times more than his family's property. There was a huge gap between the two, and there was no comparison at all. At this time, the bell rang, signaling the end of today's public class. Xiao Weiman and Alice left the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine with the delegation of the World Medical Association. The students present did not let Qin Haodong go. They asked him to give another lecture in unison. He was here today to preach and teach Chinese medicine. Since everyone liked to listen, he naturally wouldn't refuse. Then, he started another class. Time passed quickly. Before they knew it, the bell rang again. This time, no one asked Qin Haodong to stay. After all, he was their teacher, and there would be many opportunities to listen to his lectures in the future. Everyone surrounded Qin Haodong like stars surrounding the moon, leaving the classroom and walking to the door of the teaching building. Mr. Qin is so outstanding. From today on, he will be my idol, the only one. I don't know if Mr. Qin has a girlfriend. If he is single, I must pursue him and give birth to a lot of monkeys for him. You wish. How could Mr. Qin like you? He is so outstanding. If he wants to choose, he should choose me. All the students were talking at once. At this time, a male student patted Huang Fusheng on the shoulder and asked, "Dude, are you really classmates with Mr. Qin?" Huang Fusheng nodded. The student said again, "You are both classmates and taught by the same teacher. Why is Mr. Qin so much better than you?" In fact, the classmate was just joking. However, the speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. This sentence immediately pierced Huang Fusheng's fragile self-esteem. He said excitedly, "So what? No matter how outstanding he is, his girlfriend is with me in the end. From this point of view, he is defeated by me." The student was stunned. He didn't expect that Huang Fusheng would say these words. Looking at his expression, Huang Fusheng thought that he didn't believe it. He reached out and took Gu Xiaoyan's hand and said, "Xiaoyan, am I right?" But this time, Gu Xiaoyan didn't cooperate as before. At this time, she thought that if she was given another chance, she would definitely choose Qin Haodong, not the person in front of her. At this moment, the students in front of them exclaimed. Everyone looked in the direction and saw a large Hummer off-road vehicle parked in front of the teaching building. The door opened. Wearing high heels and black stockings, an extremely beautiful long leg appeared in front of everyone's eyes. In an instant, it attracted the attention of all the male creatures. The first to get out of the car was the sexy and enchanting Hu Shaoxian. She had I6 legs, an A4 waist, a collarbone that could hold coins, and a chest that could hold coke. Her perfect figure made the male students in front of her dizzy. Many people unconsciously drooled. Then, several graceful figures came out of the car. Nailan Wushuang, Nailan Wuxia, Qi Wan, Feng Wu, and several women who had broken through the bottleneck of the Saint Realm suddenly formed the most beautiful scenery in front of the teaching building. Some of them were sexy, some were charming, some were pure, some were tall, and some had S-shaped curves. In short, the 5 of them covered almost all types of beautiful women. Qin Haodong didn't expect that they would suddenly appear in the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. He stood there in a daze, not knowing what these girls wanted to do. Hu Shaoxian walked in front. The 5 people stood in a row and walked towards them. Everyone in front of the teaching building was stunned. They didn't know what these 5 women, who were 10 times more beautiful than the world's top models, wanted to do. Hu Shaoxian walked to Qin Haodong. She first smiled charmingly, then kissed him on the cheek, and then stepped to the side. The second one was Nalan Wushuang, the third was Nalan Wuxia, and the last one was Feng Wu. She also shyly kissed Qin Haodong on the cheek. Everyone was stunned. So many beautiful women stood in a row to kiss Mr. Qin. What on earth did they want to do? After the kiss, the women clamped Qin Haodong's arms, pulled him into the Hummer, and then left. My God, what's going on? Could it be that Mr. Qin was robbed? Robbed? I also want to be robbed. If such a beautiful woman came to rob me, I would be willing to die. Needless to say, they must be Mr. Qin's girlfriends. I'm so jealous that he has 5 beautiful girlfriends at once. Listening to the discussion around him and looking at the Hummer going away, Huang Fuxing was completely dumbfounded. Just now, he had used Gu Xiaoyan as his trump card. But after seeing Qin Haodong's women, Gu Xiaoyan was simply dull. There was no comparison between them at all. Only then did he realize that he had been completely defeated. He had been defeated in a mess. He had been defeated without any bottom line. Gu Xiaoyan's mood was also extremely complicated. Originally, when Qin Haodong came to teach in the class, she had such a little thought just now. In the future, there would be more opportunities to contact with him, and maybe she could save the former relationship. Now it seemed that she had thought too much. There was no possibility at all. She couldn't even compare with a corner of those women. How could Qin Haodong like her? After getting in the car, Feng Wu was responsible for driving, and the other 4 girls squeezed in the back seat with Qin Haodong. Although the space of the Hummer was very spacious, it was still very crowded with 5 people. They were all close to each other. Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "What are you doing today?" Hu Shaoxian said, "We are stamping." Nalan Wushuang said with a smile, "Showing off." Nalan Wuxia said with a smile, "Declaring sovereignty." Qi Wan said, "To prevent you from flirting with girls at school." Although Feng Wu was driving, she couldn't help covering her mouth and laughing. However, out of respect for the sacred master, she didn't say anything. Qin Haodong said with black lines on his face, "Do you have to do that? I'm here to attend classes. How can I flirt with girls?" Qi Wan said, "Why not? Sister Feng Wu was flirted with by you when you were at school. This is a lesson for the future. We will never allow this kind of thing to happen again." "Well, whatever you say." Qin Haodong knew that it was always a man who failed to quarrel with a woman. He changed the topic and said, "Where are we going?" Hu Shaoxian said, "We have worked hard for so many days and finally broke through the bottleneck of the holy stage. You should reward us well. Accompany us to go shopping, have a big meal, and you will pay for it all." "Well, whatever you do, I'll accompany you." Qin Haodong and the girls didn't return to the Tang sect until nightfall. After entering the door, Tang Tang was watching TV with Chu Xianyue, and Lin Momo was looking through her mobile phone. Seeing Qin Haodong and the others coming back, Lin Momo cried, "Haodong, look, the internet is full of news about traditional Chinese medicine." Qin Haodong took the mobile phone and saw the news that the World Medical Association had come to the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine for an inspection. It had spread all over the world and dominated the news headlines of many websites. Traditional Chinese medicine of Huaxia has emerged and won the unanimous approval of the experts of the World Medical Association. Alice, the president of the World Medical Association, said that traditional Chinese medicine is a magical medical skill and will make greater contributions to the development of world health. The medical sage has conquered the World Medical Association and the whole world with his magical medical skills. Looking through these news, Qin Haodong felt very happy. These positive news could create a great advantage for the development of traditional Chinese medicine in the future, so that more people would pay attention to traditional Chinese medicine and recognize it. Hearing their conversation, the other girls also picked up their mobile phones and looked through them. Suddenly, Hu Shaoxian cried, "Haodong, look at this news." Qin Haodong glanced at the screen of the mobile phone she held up. It directly said, "A famous scholar exposes the medical sage, Qin Haodong's academic fraud. The inspection of the World Medical Association is a complete farce." Then others also found similar news on the internet, and soon a piece of news recorded by Lu Zhiping popped up. They clicked on the video and saw a thin man in his 40s sitting there talking with confidence and assurance. As an expert scholar of biology, I have to responsibly tell you that there is no scientific basis for traditional Chinese medicine at all. The so-called meridians and the so-called qi are all tricks to deceive people. Traditional Chinese medicine can't cure diseases at all. Qin Haodong is also a clown. The so-called experts and scholars of the World Medical Association are either deceived by his tricks or hired by him. There is no credibility at all. Chapter 740. That bastard. He's full of nonsense. Nailan Wushuang said angrily, "He doesn't know anything about traditional Chinese medicine, but he slandered traditional Chinese medicine. What a lunatic." Qin Haodong shook his head and said, "He's not a lunatic. He must have a plan." After the World Medical Association left, the explosive media publicity definitely created an unprecedented opportunity for the development of traditional Chinese medicine. Lu Zhiping stood out at this time. Obviously, he is not targeting me, but the whole traditional Chinese medicine industry. I think this matter is far from as simple as it seems. There must be a lot of tricks behind it that we don't know. At this time, Nailan Wuxia flipped through her mobile phone again and said, "Haodong, this shameless guy posted a new post. He wants to publicly challenge you and expose your scam in front of all the people in Huaxia. I really don't know how such an ignorant person has more than 10 million fans." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Does he want to challenge me? I really don't know who gave him the courage." At this time, his mobile phone rang. It was Wan Taisong. It must be something important to call so late. He pressed the answer button and heard Wan Taisong say in a hurry, "Little Qin, did you see the news? Lu Zhiping jumped out to target you." Qin Haodong said indifferently, "President Wan, I saw it, but he is not targeting me, but the whole traditional Chinese medicine industry in Huaxia." Wan Taisong said, "Little Qin, no matter what, this Lu Zhiping is very difficult to deal with. He just called me and formally challenged you and the Capital University of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Should we accept the challenge? If it doesn't work, I'll find another reason to refuse." "President Wan, you can't refuse." Qin Haodong said, "If I don't dare to accept his challenge at this time, the positive influence brought by the World Medical Association yesterday will all disappear. Everyone will think that what he said is true and that traditional Chinese medicine is a scam." "You're right." Wan Taisong was also confused by the sudden news. He calmed down and said, "It seems that we have to accept the challenge, but you must be fully prepared. This Lu Zhiping is really powerful." Qin Haodong said confidently, "Don't worry, President Wan. As long as I'm here, he won't be able to do anything." As soon as he hung up the phone, Xiao Weiman called again. "I don't know what's wrong with Lu Zhiping. He actually jumped out to cause trouble at this time." "Haodong, are you confident?" "Of course I'm confident, Minister Xiao. Don't worry, I'll handle it well." After hanging up the phone, Qin Haodong thought for a moment and dialed a series of phone numbers. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. He had to find out more about Lu Zhiping, and the dark net was the perfect person to do this. There was nothing in the world that they couldn't find out. "Mr. Medical Sage, I'm very happy to receive your call. Your performance at school today was wonderful." As soon as the phone was connected, Donnie Randall's sweet voice came from the other side. Qin Haodong said, "You found out so soon. Are you sending someone to spy on me?" "Mr. Medical Sage, your news has already blown up the entire media circle. Do you still need me to monitor you? Although our dark net is very powerful, if we go to inquire about everything, we won't have enough people." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "I'm just joking with you. Now I need you to do me a favor. Donnie Randall said, "Do you want me to help you investigate Lu Zhiping, who doesn't know what's good for him?" "Yes, it's him. I want to know the specific information about him." Donnie Randall said, "Mr. Medical Sage, I knew you wanted to investigate this guy. I've already prepared the information for you. I'll send it to your mailbox now." Qin Haodong said, "Thank you, Miss Randall. You're very smart. Mr. Medical Sage is really smart. Lu Zhiping even dared to provoke you. He must be tired of living." Donnie Randall admired Qin Haodong very much. The dark net was extremely powerful, and the only thing that could make her feel afraid was this seemingly gentle Huaxia man. Qin Haodong hung up the phone, turned on the computer, and began to read the information sent by Donnie Randall. The information was very comprehensive, and even recorded that Lu Zhiping peeped at a widow taking a bath when he was a child. Although Qin Haodong had a powerful spirit and could read things quickly, it took him a full hour to finish reading the information. Closing the laptop, he sneered. As he had guessed, Lu Zhiping was not a madman who jumped out to make trouble. There was a manipulator behind him, and that was the Angel Pharmaceutical Group in Europe. The Angel Pharmaceutical Group was one of the largest pharmaceutical groups in the world. Its industries covered the 5 continents, and it was even more influential than the Wilson Group. Lu Zhiping had a high IQ and was very smart when he was in school. When he was a child, his family was poor, and later he was sent by the government to study at a famous university in Europe. During his study, he was infiltrated by the Angel Group and became their pawn. His main role was to suppress the traditional Chinese medicine industry in Huaxia, reduce the influence of the traditional Chinese medicine industry, and increase the market share of Western medicine in Huaxia. After all, Huaxia had a population of more than 1 billion, and the daily consumption of medicine was astronomical. As long as the market share was increased a little bit, the profits would be immeasurable. After graduation, Lu Zhiping quickly became famous with the help of the Angel Group. He had 2 ways to hype himself up. One was to crack down on fake medicine, and the other was to expose the inside story of other industries to increase his influence among the people. What he wanted to do in the end was to use his influence to discredit traditional Chinese medicine and affect the sales of traditional Chinese medicine. The trip of the World Medical Association to Huaxia made the Angel Group feel the crisis. Once the traditional Chinese medicine industry developed, it would greatly reduce their market share and take away their money. In this case, as soon as the World Medical Association left, the Angel Group immediately asked Lu Zhiping to make a statement to reduce the influence of this matter. In a word, Lu Zhiping was a dog raised by the interest group of Western medicine. On the surface, he was speaking out for the people, but in fact, he had been betraying the interests of the whole Huaxia. He was a complete traitor. He was also a celebrity on the internet, especially in debating. Since his debut, he had never lost, so he had won the support of a large number of fans. However, according to the information collected by Donnie Randall, Lu Zhiping had hidden a lot of dirty tricks behind his victories. If he encountered a powerful opponent, he usually adopted 2 ways. First, he would check the personal information of the opponent to see if there was any corruption, academic fraud, and educational problems. As long as the opponent had a flaw, he would seize it and use it as a means to threaten the opponent. Second, he would use the power of the Angel Group to threaten the opponent and his family, even at the expense of creating some cruel means such as traffic accidents, to threaten the opponent. With his good eloquence and these 2 points, he had been successful for many years. As long as he debated in public, he would definitely win. A sneer appeared at the corner of Qin Haodong's mouth. Lu Zhiping's means didn't work on him at all. Since Lu Zhiping provoked him, he could only say that his good days were over. At the same time, in a villa in the capital, Lu Zhiping was having a video call with a white man in his 50s. "Mr. Mora, I've already learned that Qin Haodong is very eloquent and has a profound attainment in traditional Chinese medicine. I'm afraid I won't have any advantage in debating with him. Can the organization think of some ways to put some pressure on this guy like before and make him admit defeat?" On the big screen, Morris shook his head and said, "You can only rely on yourself for this task. This is the order of the higher-ups. And you can only win, not lose. Prepare well and use your debating skills. If you can win the debate tomorrow, the higher-ups will give you $20 million as a reward. At first, Lu Zhiping was a little depressed, but when he heard the amount of the reward, his two small eyes suddenly lit up and he said excitedly, "Don't worry, Mr. Mora. I'll definitely work hard. Dear Lu, I wish you good luck." After that, Mora disappeared from the big screen. After turning off the video, Mora turned back to a white man in his 70s and said, "Boss, why don't we help Lu Zhiping? If we make that guy yield and cooperate with us to slander traditional Chinese medicine in front of the public, the effect will be doubled and we will definitely make a lot of money." The white old man shook his head and said, "Don't act rashly. This is the order of the higher-ups. We can't afford to offend that guy for the time being." "What? There's someone we can't afford to offend?" Mora's face was full of disbelief. After working in the organization for so many years, he knew how powerful the organization was. It was the first time that he had met someone they didn't dare to offend. The white old man said, "Well, don't ask too much. Anyway, Lu Zhiping is just a small pawn of ours. If he can succeed, we will make a lot of money. If he fails, it's no big deal. Let him run his own course." The next day, in the auditorium of the Imperial Medical College, the time for the battle between Lu Zhiping and Qin Haodong was already full of students who had come to watch the battle. After reading the news that had been circulating last night, everyone was so angry at Lu Zhiping that they all came to cheer for Qin Haodong. However, there were also some people on the internet who had ulterior motives standing up to express their support for Lu Zhiping, claiming that he was the spokesperson of science. On the front stage of the auditorium, there were two debating tables facing each other, about 3 meters away from each other. At 10 o'clock, Qin Haodong and Lu Zhiping walked to the stage, one on the left and the other on the right. On Qin Haodong's side, everyone cheered and applauded, while on Lu Zhiping's side, there were boos everywhere. However, Lu Zhiping was also a person who had experienced many debates and great storms, so he was not moved by the atmosphere of the scene at all. After sitting down, he looked at Qin Haodong and said, "First, Mr. Qin, although this is your home field, it doesn't mean anything at all. Science can defeat everything." Qin Haodong smiled faintly and said, "Mr. Lu, since you have challenged me, please tell me first why you say that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific." Lu Zhiping's heart sank when he saw that Qin Haodong's mood was stable and he was not provoked by him at all. It seemed that today's debate would not be easy. However, he had made sufficient preparations last night, so he did not panic too much. He continued, "Now is an era of science, and everything is based on facts. As for the things advocated by traditional Chinese medicine, the so-called qi, the so-called acupoints, the so-called meridians, the so-called yin and yang, the so-called heat and cold, which one of them can be seen by everyone? I have always followed the spirit of science. I think that what can be seen and discovered by everyone is true. Otherwise, everything is a fraud." Chapter 741. Lu Zhiping was aggressive. Although what he said was a cliché attacking traditional Chinese medicine, it was the most difficult thing to answer. After all, the theory advocated by traditional Chinese medicine, whether it was yin and yang, meridians, or qi, could not be put in front of people, so it was difficult to be directly persuasive. In order to make today's event more influential, Lu Zhiping found many media reporters, who had surrounded the entire debate platform. The momentum was no less than that of the World Medical Association yesterday. At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on Qin Haodong's face, looking forward to his answer. Qin Haodong looked at Lu Zhiping with a smile and asked calmly, "Mr. Lu, I heard that you are a well-known scholar and have great achievements in scientific research." "Of course, I have always advocated science." Lu Zhiping raised his chin with a smug look on his face. Qin Haodong said, "Then I have a question. What is the temperature of the sun? What is the distance from the earth?" Lu Zhiping was a professor and had always regarded himself as a scientist. He immediately answered, "The surface temperature of the sun is 5,500 degrees Celsius, and the center temperature is about 20 million degrees Celsius. The distance between the Sun and the Earth is 149.6 million kilometers. After he finished speaking, he felt a burst of pride. Not everyone could clearly remember these data in their minds. Qin Haodong smiled and asked, Professor Liu, did you measure these data? Or did you see it with your own eyes? Lu Zhiping almost choked to death by his own saliva. What nonsense are you talking about? These scientific data were speculated by scientists. If he had been asked to measure the temperature of the Sun, would he still be alive now? Speculated? You said that traditional Chinese medicine is unscientific without seeing it. Why don't you believe these speculations? Lu Zhiping was speechless. He licked his dry lips and said, Mr. Qin, these things are too far away from us. They can't prove anything. Too far away. Then let me ask you another question. Have you seen your great-grandfather? No. Qin Haodong said, then you haven't even seen him. Should you question his existence? According to your theory, only what you see is true and scientific. Only then did Lu Zhiping realize that Qin Haodong was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. He looked cheerful, but every step he took was a trap. Qin Haodong, you're just quibbling. Am I quibbling or are you speaking against your conscience? Qin Haodong said, so what people haven't seen doesn't mean it doesn't exist. For example, we ordinary people have never seen things like genetic codes and viruses. Do you think they don't exist? TCM has existed in China for 5,000 years and has made immortal contributions to the survival and reproduction of the Chinese nation. It is a treasure left to us by our ancestors, and no one is allowed to question it. His debate just now seemed a little tricky and absurd, but the effect was the most direct, the most powerful, and the easiest to accept. As soon as he finished speaking, thunderous applause immediately rang out in the hall. Lu Zhiping had debated many times. Although Qin Haodong had taken the lead, he did not panic. After the applause subsided, he said, I often hear that you Chinese medicine doctors use thousands of years of inheritance as a bargaining chip to prove the illusory thing of traditional Chinese medicine. In fact, it is still unknown whether traditional Chinese medicine has made any contribution to the human race. In the era of complete belief in TCM, the average life expectancy of our Huaxia people was only 30 or 40 years old. Since Western medicine came to Huaxia, the average life expectancy has reached 70 years. From this point of view, how much contribution do you think TCM has made? I even think that the short life expectancy of Huaxia people is inseparable from the use of unscientific things like TCM. The audience sitting under the stage were all students of the School of Chinese Medicine. When they heard Lu Zhiping distorting the truth and discrediting TCM, they immediately became excited and wanted to rush to the stage to debate with this guy. Qin Haodong still looked calm. He was not irritated by Lu Zhiping's words, nor was he disturbed by his nonsense. He continued to speak with confidence and assurance, Mr. Luo, according to your theory, when we believed in TCM, the life expectancy of Huaxia people was short, while the life expectancy of Europeans and Americans who have always believed in Western medicine should be longer. But this is not the case. At the same time in history, the average life expectancy of Europeans and Americans was shorter than that of Huaxia people. This really shows the value of TCM. Well, Mr. Qin is right. The role of TCM in Huaxia cannot be erased. Mr. Qin, that's great. I support you. As soon as Qin Haodong paused, there was another warm applause from the audience. After a while, he said, nowadays, people's life expectancy is extended, which is caused by many factors. In ancient times, the average life expectancy of Huaxia people was short, and the main reason was that they died of hunger, war, and other factors. Since ancient times, when it comes to medical skills, TCM has never been inferior. This can be fully proved by historical data. In the process of human development, nearly 100 million people in Europe died of the Black Death, but Huaxia was unscathed. Nearly 75 million people died of the Spanish flu, but Huaxia was fine. 25 million people died of the Justinian plague in the West, but Huaxia was still unaffected. None of the top 10 major infectious diseases in the world has ever broken out in Huaxia. What do you think we rely on? Is it luck? Of course not. It's our amazing TCM. TCM has protected the reproduction of Huaxia people for thousands of years. Now you're questioning it as pseudoscience. Don't you feel ashamed? When Qin Haodong finished his speech, there was another burst of cheers and shouts. His words ignited the passion and recognition of TCM among the students. Although Lu Zhiping looked calm, there was a hint of panic in his eyes. The young man in front of him was not like the old TCM doctors he had dealt with before. Although those old TCM doctors were very skilled, they had been working in medicine all their lives. Their minds were not very flexible, and they were not good at talking. Just a few months ago, he had a debate with a well-known old TCM doctor. At that time, he only used a few words to provoke the old TCM doctor's anger and make him completely lose his mind. He used the recognition of certain leaders and certain honors to prove the scientific nature of TCM. In the end, he made a fool of himself and became really angry. Qin Haodong was not only young, but also quick-witted and sharp-tongued. His little tricks didn't work at all. Since the beginning of the debate, Qin Haodong had firmly gained the upper hand. No matter what, he had to win today's debate. Taking a deep breath and suppressing his panic, Zhiping continued, "Dr. Qin, I have to say that you're very eloquent and good at stirring up people's emotions. But the truth is the truth. You can't change it with a few beautiful words." He reached into his pocket and took out a newspaper. "Dr. Qin, I don't know if you read the news 3 days ago. A TCM doctor caused the death of a 5-year-old child because of careless medication. I don't know what else you can say in the face of this fact." After he said this, there was a silence. This news had been really hot recently, and many people had stood up to criticize TCM because of this matter. Everyone's eyes focused on Qin Haodong's face again. They didn't know how the witty Mr. Qin would answer. Qin Haodong said, "Mr. Lu, you don't have to read the newspaper. I've also read about this medical accident on the internet." Lu Zhiping slapped the table and shouted with great momentum, "A TCM doctor killed a 5-year-old child. It's a crime. What else do you have to say? This is enough to prove that TCM is a trick. It can't cure diseases at all. On the contrary, it's a trick to harm people." Qin Haodong said, "The official hasn't given the final result of this medical accident. There's no clear statement on whether the death was caused by other causes or by TCM. Please don't make a final conclusion. Putting this medical accident aside, I want to ask you, Mr. Lu, have you done any research on the number of deaths caused by TCM medical accidents? What's the ratio? How many deaths caused by Western medicine? What's the ratio?" "Well, I don't know." Lu Zhiping didn't answer. In fact, he had done such research. He originally wanted to use it as an important weight to attack TCM. However, after the results came out, he found that TCM had far fewer deaths than Western medicine. "Mr. Lu, you are a well-known scholar. Do you not know this data, or do you dare not take it out?" Qin Haodong sneered and said, "In reality, the number and ratio of deaths caused by Western medicine are far higher than those caused by TCM. To be specific, how many people die every year because of penicillin allergy? How many people die because of wrong diagnosis? How many people die because of improper surgery? When Western medicine kills people, why don't you say that it's witchcraft? It's unscientific." Lu Zhiping was speechless again. Using cases as a material attack was also one of his common means, but it failed again in front of this young man. Qin Haodong turned his head and said to the reporters and students around him, "Whether it's Western medicine or TCM, it's inevitable that there are cases of failure. But once there is a case of failure, the results are completely different. The death caused by Western medicine is a normal case of failure. It's inevitable. It won't affect its science, nor will it affect its status in reality. No one will stand up and curse. But once there is a medical accident in TCM, many people will jump up and curse. They will say that TCM is witchcraft, a fraud, and unscientific. This time, there was no applause. On the contrary, they fell into silence. The atmosphere became extremely heavy. His words made everyone think deeply. That was indeed the case. Many people subconsciously thought that it was inevitable for Western medicine to have medical accidents, and it was even reasonable. But when this happened to TCM, the whole society lost its tolerance. There was a lot of criticism. What on earth caused this to happen? Lu Zhiping cried again, Qin Haodong, I admit that you're very good at quibbling, but these things you said are illusory. The yin and yang and meridians mentioned in TCM can't be seen, and what you said is still invisible. All you can do is use these imaginary things to deceive the public. It's not scientific at all, and it can't stand the test of time. Qin Haodong knew that this guy was a dog raised by the West. He was paid to do things and had no so-called scientific spirit at all. Qin Haodong lost interest in continuing to argue with him. He sneered and said, Do you mean that the invisible things are not scientific? Lu Zhiping cried almost hysterically, Of course, TCM is illusory. It's made up by you people to deceive people. It's the most unscientific example. Chapter 742. Since the beginning of the debate, he had been at a disadvantage. Now he could only use a rogue method to insist that traditional Chinese medicine was not scientific. Otherwise, he would be defeated today. Qin Haodong sneered and flicked his left index finger gently. An invisible wind shot out. With a crack, Lu Zhiping's left leg suddenly broke into two parts. Ah, the guy suddenly screamed. Looking at his calf, which had become V-shaped, he immediately pointed at Qin Haodong and shouted, How dare you hit me? You can't argue with me, so you hit me. Is this the style of traditional Chinese medicine? Although the pain was unbearable, he still used his final trump card for the 20 million bonus. Qin Haodong spread out his hands and said, Mr. Lu, you've wronged me. I'm sitting here. Everyone can see it clearly. When did I hit you? According to what you said, it's not scientific at all. At the same time, with another crack, Lu Zhiping's other calf also became V-shaped. The reporters and students below the stage were completely confused. What the hell was going on? Everyone saw clearly that Lu Zhiping was sitting alone on the debate stage. There was no one around him, and Qin Haodong did nothing special. How did his leg break? I see it. It must be the wrath of God. This guy has been punished by God for doing things against his conscience, that's right. This guy always likes to talk nonsense. I've been unhappy with him for a long time. God help me vent my anger. At this time, Lu Zhiping couldn't bear the pain on the stage anymore. He shouted crazily, Where's the doctor? Hurry up and help me. Seeing that the debate had suddenly become like this, Wan Taisong stood up from the audience and said to the two doctors next to him, Take him away and send him to the central hospital. Hearing that he would be sent to the central hospital dozens of kilometers away, Lu Zhiping immediately cried, Don't you have a traditional Chinese medicine hospital here? Don't you have a Chinese medicine doctor who can fix bones? Hurry up and fix my leg. I'm going to die of pain. Wan Taisong sneered and said, Mr. Lu Zhiping, you just said that traditional Chinese medicine is witchcraft and it's not scientific. How dare we treat you? What if we kill you? We can't afford to take this responsibility. Then he waved his hand. Two school medical staff carried a stretcher to the debate stage and took Lu Zhiping out. Seeing that one side of the debate was strangely injured, the debate was about to end. The reporters put away their cameras and the other students present were also ready to leave. Wait a minute. At this moment, Qin Haodong stopped everyone. Under many surprised gazes, he took out a remote control from his pocket and lit up the big screen in the venue. The big screen slowly turned on, and then, a video call appeared in front of everyone's eyes. The video was not long, and it was Lu Zhiping. It was of the Lu Zhiping's conversation. After reading the contents, everyone present understood what was going on. Anger immediately filled the entire venue. Lu Zhiping, who had always flaunted himself as a guardian of science, turned out to be a dog raised by the Westerners. Today's debate was also for the 20 million prize money. Then, Qin Haodong played the selected information of last night on the big screen, revealing what Lu Zhiping had done over the years. The debate had no result, and the reporters were quite disappointed. But when they saw the information, they immediately became excited. They pointed the cameras in their hands at the big screen and kept recording. After that, Qin Haodong turned off the big screen and said to everyone present, "As you can see, to be honest, I was also very depressed when I got this information, not for anything else, but for the difficult living environment in which we traditional Chinese medicine practitioners live. Today is the third debate I have participated in for traditional Chinese medicine. The first time was at the exchange meeting between Huaxia and Neon. At that time, the Neon people said that their medical skills were learned from Huaxia, but they were better than Huaxia, and that traditional Chinese medicine in Huaxia had declined. The second debate was at the Shanghai Medical College, and the opponent was Koryo doctors. They said that traditional Chinese medicine in Huaxia originated from Koryo, and one of the important reasons was that traditional Chinese medicine was declining, not as prosperous as Koryo. The third debate was today, and I was facing a compatriot who desperately slandered traditional Chinese medicine, a traitor who had been bribed with money. From these three debates, it can be seen that today's traditional Chinese medicine can be said to be suffering from internal and external troubles, and it is difficult to move forward. Why did those people bribe Lu Zhiping to discredit traditional Chinese medicine? Of course, they will not do it without profit. Their ultimate goal is to occupy the huge medical market in Huaxia. As long as our people eat less traditional Chinese medicine and more Western medicine, they will make endless profits. Their dream is to completely erase traditional Chinese medicine from Huaxia one day. At that time, our country will become the world of Western medicine. They can raise the price of medicine unscrupulously. Through the channel of the pharmaceutical industry, they can reasonably and legally rob our money and suck our blood. In fact, there is no winner in today's debate, but only a wake-up call for us. As a doctor of traditional Chinese medicine, I hope that from today onwards, all of us in China will support our own medical skills. Don't believe in those rumors with ulterior motives. Only with the development of traditional Chinese medicine can we save more compatriots and bring more benefits to our Chinese people. Good, that's great. Mr. Qin, we support you. Traditional Chinese medicine is the quintessence of our country. Long live traditional Chinese medicine. We support traditional Chinese medicine. Come on, Mr. Qin. Come on, traditional Chinese medicine. Come on, Huaxia. For a moment, the enthusiasm in the venue was high. Everyone was cheering for Qin Haodong and traditional Chinese medicine. At the same time, people on the internet cursed Lu Zhiping after watching the live broadcast. The original more than 10 million fans had completely turned against him and became more than 10 million anti-fans, cursing him for being a traitor. The Public Security Department immediately took action and brought Lu Zhiping to justice according to the information provided by Qin Haodong. So far, the debate on traditional Chinese medicine came to a successful end with the victory of traditional Chinese medicine. Qin Haodong became the hero of the entire Capital Medical College and the hero in the hearts of millions of Huaxia people. After the debate, Qin Haodong had another class and then left the Capital Medical College. They came to Su Hui's clinic and had a simple lunch at noon. In the afternoon, they saw patients together. Every time he appeared in the video, he would add a little illusion on his face, so no one recognized that the young doctor in front of them was the hero of traditional Chinese medicine on the internet. Everyone saw patients in an orderly manner. At about 2:00, when they saw almost all the patients in the room, a middle-aged man in his 40s came in. The man was dressed in rustic clothes and looked quite honest, like a standard farmer. He held a canvas bag in his hand. After entering the door, he asked, "Who is the boss of the clinic?" It was the first time for Su Hui to go out of the school gate, so she didn't know much about the dirty things in society. After seeing the man's clothes, she immediately had a good impression of him and said, "Brother, do you want to see a doctor?" The middle-aged man said, "Miss, you are the boss. I don't see a doctor." Su Hui said in surprise, "You don't see a doctor? What can I do for you?" "Miss, my family is from the northeast and I have been collecting herbs for a living. A few days ago, I picked a century-old ginseng. I was afraid that it was sold too cheaply in our country, so I came to the capital to try my luck. Let me see how much this ginseng is worth. It doesn't matter whether I want it or not. You can help me estimate the price. You can see that I'm not educated and I'm afraid of being cheated." The middle-aged man said as he took out a red cloth bag from his canvas bag. Qin Haodong had been watching from the side. He had long seen that there was something wrong with this man. Although he looked honest on the surface, a treacherous look flashed in his eyes from time to time. Su Hui couldn't see it, but he could see it. With him here, he was not afraid of what this guy would do. "Really? A century-old ginseng? I'm out of stock here. If it's really a century-old ginseng, I can give you a reasonable price." Su Hui took the red envelope as she spoke and carefully opened it. After opening it, she saw something similar to ginseng inside. It looked quite similar to ginseng, but she grew up with Su Hongba and had seen some century-old ginseng. Her ability to identify medicinal materials was very strong. She took the so-called century-old ginseng in her hand. First, she carefully checked the color, then she sniffed it. Then she put it on the table and said, "I'm sorry, brother. I can't take your ginseng." Before going out, Su Hongba also taught her some rules of buying medicinal materials. Even if she saw that there was something wrong with the other party's medicinal materials, she shouldn't point it out on the spot. She just didn't want to buy it. Qin Haodong nodded secretly. This was not ginseng, but something carved from the root of a tree. However, the appearance was particularly realistic. It was obvious that it was made by an expert at first glance. The middle-aged man said, "Miss, although my ginseng doesn't look very good, it's a real old ginseng. I dug it out of the mountain myself. I think you're an honest person. How about I sell it to you for 200,000 yuan?" Su Hui shook her head and said, "I'm sorry, brother. I can't take your ginseng." "Miss, don't be like this. It's not easy for me to come to the capital. I'll sell it to you at a lower price. How about 150,000 yuan?" Seeing that Su Hui still shook her head, he gritted his teeth and pretended to be very desperate. "How about 100,000 yuan? As long as you give me 100,000 yuan, this century-old ginseng is yours. Miss, believe me. I'm sure you'll make a profit. You can sell it at a higher price if you sell it. Brother, you'd better take it to someone else's house and ask." Then Su Hui wrapped the ginseng carved from the root of a tree again and sent it to the middle-aged man. At this time, the middle-aged man knew that Su Hui had already seen that it was a fake. His expression suddenly changed. "Since you don't want it, then forget it. I'll sell it to someone else. I'm sure I can sell it at a higher price." He pretended to open the cloth bag again and checked his ginseng. Then he shouted with an exaggerated expression, "Where's my ginseng? This is not my ginseng." He put down the cloth bag, pointed at Su Hui's nose, and shouted, "Little girl, I think you look like a decent person. You actually swapped my 100-year-old ginseng. Hurry up and take it out, or I'll kill you today." Su Hui was shocked at first, and then she said anxiously, I didn't touch your ginseng at all. When did I switch your ginseng? Besides, this is not ginseng at all. It's a fake to deceive people, nonsense. It's obvious that you bullied me, a farmer from the mountains. I dug this ginseng myself. How could it be fake?" Hearing the shouting here, several patients who had just come in to see the doctor and passers-by at the door all came over. When the middle-aged man saw people coming over, he immediately burst into tears and snot. Chapter 743. Everyone, please be the judge. I'm from the northeastern mountains. I dug up 100-year-old ginseng and wanted to sell it for my child's school fees. I didn't expect that the black-hearted shopkeeper here would swap the ginseng for me and say that it's fake. How am I supposed to live now? The middle-aged man's acting skills were no worse than those of professional actors. He cried sadly. Really? She looks gentle and quiet. How can she be so evil? No way. Dr. Sue is a good person. How could she do such a thing? You can't judge a book by its cover. Look at how pitiful this man is crying. I'd rather believe him. Hearing the discussion around her, Su Hui cried anxiously, No, I didn't touch his ginseng. It's fake. But no matter how she defended herself, the people around her were still fooled by the middle-aged man's simple and honest appearance. Most of them chose to believe the middle-aged man and accused Su Hui of being evil and cheating him of his ginseng. The middle-aged man cried, I don't care. Anyway, you must give me 200,000 yuan today, or I'll hang myself in your shop, Qin Haodong sneered. This guy was really versatile. After failing to cheat, he changed to blackmail. What was Su Hui going to say? But Qin Haodong pulled her behind him. He picked up the red cloth bag and looked at it. Then he said to the middle-aged man, Brother, are you mistaken? This is 100-year-old ginseng. When did you replace it with a fake one? How about this? I think the quality of your ginseng is good. It's really good stuff. I'll buy it for 200,000 yuan. Hearing that Qin Haodong wanted to buy his ginseng, the middle-aged man immediately smiled and said, Yes, you're right. This is the 100-year-old ginseng I just bought. If you pay me 200,000 yuan, I'll sell it to you. Hearing that Qin Haodong wanted to buy the ginseng, Su Hui hurriedly pulled his sleeve and cried, Haodong, you can't be cheated. This ginseng is fake. Qin Haodong stubbornly said, How can it be? Brother, this is 100-year-old ginseng. We'll definitely get a big bargain if we buy it for 200,000 yuan. The middle-aged man calmed down and said to Qin Haodong, Young man, can you make the decision or not? Professional swindlers like them had already figured out the situation of this shop and knew that Su Hui was the boss. Qin Haodong saw his doubts and said, Brother, don't worry. Although this store is not mine, it is my girlfriend's, and my girlfriend is mine, so I can make the decision for this store. Su Hui originally wanted to say something, but when she heard the person she liked say that she was his, she immediately became shy, and her heart was filled with sudden happiness. She no longer cared whether the ginseng was real or not. In her opinion, even if it was fake, it didn't matter. She could afford it anyway, as long as Qin Haodong liked it. When the middle-aged man heard this, he immediately smiled. Little brother, you really are a straightforward person who knows what's good for you. Then let's trade now. Su Hui said, Transfer the money. I have a card here. Qin Haodong said, Don't bother. We have cash at home. As he spoke, he turned around and opened a cabinet. Under the cover of the cabinet, he took out 2 bundles of Huaxia currency from the storage ring and threw them in front of the middle-aged man. Take a look. 1 bundle is 100,000 yuan, and 2 bundles are exactly 200,000 yuan. Seeing the 2 neat bundles of Huaxia currency, the middle-aged man's eyes immediately lit up. He quickly reached out and held the money in his arms. He had been in this business for some time, but it was the first time that he had made such a smooth transaction. Little brother, we're done with the goods. I'm leaving. Then he was about to leave. Qin Haodong reached out to pick up the fake ginseng and said, Brother, if you have such good goods in the future, please send them to me. Now that the transaction is done, I'll tell you the truth. Some time ago, I saw a 100-year-old ginseng that was smaller than this one sold for 3 million yuan. This one is worth at least 5 million yuan. As he spoke, he directly used mind manipulating to make the middle-aged man feel that the fake ginseng in front of him was a big treasure, which was definitely worth more than 5 million yuan. And he had made a loss by selling it for only 200,000 yuan. After reaching the nascent soul realm, his mind manipulating had been greatly improved, and he could affect another person's mind. In an instant, the middle-aged man's smile disappeared. On the contrary, his face was full of regret. Qin Haodong made a small allusion on the fake ginseng again. In the eyes of others, it was a real 100-year-old ginseng. Everyone, take a look. I've picked up a treasure in the shop today. Haven't you all seen a 100-year-old ginseng before? Look at the color, size, and roots of this ginseng. It's obviously a good thing dug out from the mountains. Hearing his words, the others began to carefully look at the ginseng. A middle-aged man in his 50s said, "Little brother, I used to be in the medicine business and I've seen a lot of good goods. To be honest, none of them are as good as yours. You've really found a treasure." After the man finished speaking, the others also began to echo, "It's really a 100-year-old ginseng. Little brother, you're going to be rich. I heard that a 100-year-old ginseng in the wild is priceless now. It can be sold for at least millions of yuan. Little brother, you have a good eye. It seems that you've made a lot of money by buying such a big treasure with 200,000 yuan. Even Su Hui, who was next to him, had a look of surprise on her face. Why did the ginseng look different from before? Did she make a mistake? At this moment, the middle-aged man slammed the 2 bundles of money in his hand on the table and shouted, "This ginseng is mine. Give it back to me." Qin Haodong's face changed and he said, "Brother, you're wrong. The ginseng has already been sold to me." The others also shouted, "Yes, we've just paid the money. How can you go back on your word?" The middle-aged man cried in annoyance, "I'm not selling it. It's only 200,000 yuan. How can I sell it to you? Take the money back and give the ginseng back to me." Qin Haodong said with a sullen face, "Do you think you're not selling it? There are so many people watching. You just sold it to me." The middle-aged man was bloated. He was so angry that his face turned red and he cried, "Then I'll buy it back. Sell it to me again. I just bought something good. Why should I sell it to you? No, this is my ginseng. You have to sell it to me or I'll hang myself in your shop today." The middle-aged man used his rogue method again, but his purpose was completely different from before. This time, he wanted to buy the fake ginseng. Qin Haodong pretended to be afraid and said, Don't. Please don't. I'm doing business to make money. In that case, I'll sell it to you. But it can't be so cheap. My ginseng is worth at least 5 million yuan. You have to pay at least 2 million yuan. The middle-aged man said, 2 million yuan. I don't have that much money. Just 1 million yuan. You have to sell it to me. 1 million yuan. Do you want cash or transfer? Of course. Who carries so much cash when they go out? Transfer is fine too. This is my account number. Qin Haodong took out Su Hui's bank card and threw it over. The middle-aged man took out his mobile phone and began to transfer the money quickly. It seemed that he was afraid that Qin Haodong would go back on his word. Soon, Su Hui's mobile phone rang and 1 million yuan was transferred to her account. Su Hui looked at the number on her mobile phone and was stunned. Wasn't he going to sell the ginseng to her? How could he make 1 million yuan in the blink of an eye? After the transfer, the middle-aged man didn't look at them anymore. He ran out with the ginseng in his arms, as if he was holding a rare treasure. Soon, he ran into a rented house not far away. A middle-aged man with a pockmarked face was sitting on the sofa, smoking and watching TV. They were brothers. The pockmarked man was the eldest, and the middle-aged man was the second. They had been in this business together for many years. Brother, I'm back. The middle-aged man shouted excitedly. Seeing his excitement, the pockmarked man thought that he had succeeded. He said, How is it? Is this little girl easy to cheat? He had already inquired about her. Su Hui was just a little girl who had just graduated from school. She had no social experience and was very simple. So he stayed at home and let his second brother go to the clinic alone to cheat. Brother, 5 million. 5 million. The middle-aged man shouted excitedly with the fake ginseng in his arms. What 5 million? Did you cheat 5 million? Hearing his words, the pockmarked man jumped up. I didn't cheat 5 million. Our ginseng is worth 5 million. The middle-aged man was still under the control of mind manipulating. He said excitedly, Brother, our ginseng is a good treasure. It's a century-old good. At first, I sold it for 200,000 yuan, but later I found that it was worth 5 million yuan. I was very smart and bought it back with 1 million yuan. The pockmarked man's expression changed. Where did you get 1 million yuan? Didn't we swindle it all these years? I've been keeping it with me. The pockmarked man grabbed the ginseng in the middle-aged man's arms. It was the fake one that they had made. It was not a century-old ginseng. F***CK. F***CKU. F***CKU. The pockmarked man was so angry that he didn't care that they were brothers. He raised his leg and kicked the middle-aged man in the lower abdomen. He directly kicked him to the ground and threw the fake ginseng on his face. The middle-aged man got up and shouted, Brother, why did you hit me? I hit you. I'll kill you directly. The pockmarked man punched and kicked the middle-aged man again. When his anger was almost vented, he touched the fake ginseng and said, Look, this is the fake I made. Look, this is a fake I made. How could it be 100-year-old ginseng? You threw away all the 1 million yuan I earned. Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? Ah. After this fierce beating, the middle-aged man finally got rid of the mind manipulating. When he saw the fake ginseng, he seemed to wake up from a dream. Brother, I was cheated by that guy. The pockmarked man said angrily, We've been hunting geese all year round. I didn't expect that we would be pecked blind by the geese today. Tell me, how did you do it? 1 million yuan, that's 1 million yuan. We cheated for so many years and only got so little money, but it was taken away by that guy. The middle-aged man said with a sad face, I don't know what happened. I was cheated by that guy. Brother, what should we do? Let's fight with that guy and get the money back. What for? Can we get it back? The pockmarked man thought for a moment and said, It seems that I can only ask my cousin to do it this time. Then he took out his mobile phone and dialed a phone number. He said with a flattering face, Cousin, we have something on our side. I want to ask you for a favor. Don't worry, I won't let you do it for nothing. Didn't my wife ask you for a diamond ring recently? After it's done, leave the diamond ring to me, don't worry, the other party is just a female college student from another place. She has no background at all. You can do whatever you want. Great, then I'll thank you, cousin. I'll go out with my second brother to find you now. With my cousin, that guy is dead. Let's go and find him together. The pockmarked man hung up the phone and walked out with the middle-aged man. Chapter 744. Qin Haodong was treating a patient in the clinic when the cell phone in his pocket rang. He took a look and found that it was a strange phone number. He pressed the answer button and heard a middle-aged woman's voice, Little Qin, this is your Auntie Liao. Auntie Liao? Qin Haodong didn't know who this person was for a moment, so he heard the other side explain, Have you forgotten me? You just cured my cervical spondylosis the day before yesterday. He immediately remembered that this person was Xiao Weiman's wife, Liao Shuyuan. He quickly said, Hello, Auntie Liao. I was busy treating a patient, so I didn't recognize you. I'm really sorry. Liao Shuyuan said, You're not familiar with me. You must come to my house more often in the future. You'd better bring your girlfriend with you. Qin Haodong had a good impression of Liao Shuyuan. He said, Auntie Liao, what can I do for you? Well, little Qin, my cervical spondylosis has been cured by you these days. Auntie was a little complacent and exercised too hard. Yesterday, when I was dancing in the square, I twisted my waist. It hasn't gotten better yet. Can you take a look at it for me? In fact, twisting her waist was not a serious disease at all. She could be treated in other hospitals. As the minister's wife, there were naturally countless doctors willing to serve her. However, Liao Shuyuan only trusted Qin Haodong now. She didn't trust anyone else. Auntie Liao, is it convenient for you to move now? If it's convenient, come to my clinic. If it's not convenient, I'll go to your house after seeing the patient. Little Qin, have you opened a clinic? Liao Shuyuan said, I can't do strenuous activities with my waist, but I can walk. I'll go to your house now and visit your clinic on the way. It'll be more convenient for me to see a doctor in the future. Then she hung up the phone and appeared in front of the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine half an hour later. At this time, Qin Haodong and Su Hui had almost seen all the patients. Seeing her enter the door, they immediately greeted her, Auntie Liao, you're here. Out of politeness, Su Hui also greeted Qin Haodong, hello, Auntie. Good. Although she was the minister's wife, Liao Shuyuan had the same problem as other middle-aged women. She was particularly interested in other people's girlfriends. After seeing the quiet and beautiful Su Hui, she even forgot her waist pain. She immediately pulled Qin Haodong and said, Little Qin, is this your girlfriend? You're so beautiful. You two are really a good match. Qin Haodong said awkwardly, Auntie Liao, don't you want to see a doctor? Come with me. Then he led Liao Shuyuan into the massage room next door. Although Su Hui's clinic was not big, it had all kinds of facilities. There was a massage room made of fiberglass next to the door. The glass here was one-way transparent. People inside could see outside, but people outside could not see inside. Qin Haodong checked Liao Shuyuan's waist injury and said, Auntie, it's a simple muscle strain. It's easy to cure. Just lie on the bed for a while and you'll be cured in 10 minutes. Little Qin, I believe in your medical skills now. After saying that, Liao Shuyuan slowly lay on the massage bed. Qin Haodong put his hands on her waist and began to massage. His massage technique was special. Coupled with the nourishment of the greenwood genuine qi, Liao Shuyuan didn't feel the pain in her back. On the contrary, she felt very comfortable. Auntie Liao, take a rest here. You'll be completely cured in 10 minutes. Liao Shuyuan sighed and said, Little Qin, I don't mean to praise you, but your medical skills are really amazing. Su Hui was treating a patient outside when a middle-aged man in uniform suddenly appeared in front of the clinic, followed by a pockmarked man, the man who had just given them 1 million yuan. Her heart sank. Even if she had no social experience, she knew that she was in trouble. The man in uniform entered the door and said, Which one of you is the boss? Su Hui stood up and said, I am. The man in uniform said, I'm Chiu Yutong, the chief of the inspection department of the sanitary bureau. I just heard a report that your clinic is selling fake medicine, so I came to check it out. Well, it was the first time for Su Hui to experience such a thing, so she was at a loss. Tell me what you want. Qin Haodong walked out of the massage room and came to them. Cousin. No. Chief Chiu, this is the guy who cheated me of 1 million yuan. The middle-aged man immediately recognized Qin Haodong when he saw him. Chiu Yutong glanced at Qin Haodong and found that he was just a young boy. He did not take him seriously and said arrogantly, Is that so? Did you just cheat the victim of 1 million yuan? Qin Haodong smiled and said, You must be joking. We are doctors. How can we cheat people? How dare you be so stubborn? Chiu Yutong took out the fake ginseng from his bag and threw it on the table in front of him. This is the evidence. Qin Haodong glanced at the ginseng and said with a smile, Brother, you're right. I sold this ginseng, but it was a fair deal. I didn't cheat you at all. Chiu Yutong said, This ginseng is fake. You sold it for 1 million yuan. Isn't it a fraud? Qin Haodong said in an orderly manner, Brother, this ginseng was brought here by him. He said that it was a century-old ginseng and he dug it out from the mountain himself. How could it be fake? If it's really fake, you should catch him instead of me. Qiu Yutong was a little confused. Indeed, this fake ginseng was taken out by his cousin. Even if it was fake, it had nothing to do with Qin Haodong. He had worked in the sanitary bureau for so many years, but it was the first time that he had encountered such a strange thing. Qin Haodong said with a smile, "Brother, I thought it was a century-old ginseng and bought it for 200,000 yuan, but he insisted on buying it. If I didn't sell it, he would hang himself in my shop. I had no choice but to sell it to him. How could it be a fraud?" Several patients who had just come to see Qin Haodong were still nearby. Seeing this, they immediately came over to testify for Qin Haodong. "Yes, we saw it with our own eyes. This ginseng was brought here by him. Whether it's real or not, it has nothing to do with Dr. Qin, we can testify. He insisted on buying the ginseng and said that if he didn't sell it to him, he would hang himself in the clinic. Why did he come back to make trouble? Is he shameless? That's enough. Shut up." Since he couldn't reason with them, Qiu Yutong took out his official position and shouted angrily. Since this Chinese medicine practitioner had no background, he could do whatever he wanted. He didn't believe that an outsider could cause any trouble. At the same time, the pockmark-faced man and the middle-aged man also had a fierce look in their eyes. They reached for their waists and revealed the handle of the dagger. Seeing this situation, the patients immediately shut their mouths and stepped back. They were just here to see a doctor. It was okay for them to say a few words for Qin Haodong, but it was not worthwhile to lose their lives. Qiu Yutong said to Qin Haodong, "I don't care whether you're a fraud or not. You should behave like a doctor. Hurry up and return the ginseng to him. Give him 1.2 million yuan. Su Hui said, "Brother, it doesn't make sense. Even if you want to return the ginseng, you should return it to him with 1 million yuan. Why do you still want our 200,000 yuan? Qiu Yutong said, "Why not? Didn't he sell the ginseng to you for 200,000 yuan? Su Hui said, "Then we'll also return the ginseng. We don't want it anymore." Qiu Yutong said, "No. We've already sold the ginseng to you. You can't return it at will." Although Qin Haodong had already seen that they were on the same side, he still laughed and said, "Brother, your theory is so strange. They can return the ginseng at will, but we can't?" Qiu Yutong was stunned and then said, "Of course. You're the owner of the shop and you have to be trustworthy. Since they want to return the ginseng, you must return it. But this man is just an ordinary farmer. Since he has sold the ginseng, you can't return it." Qin Haodong said, "No, it doesn't make sense. We don't agree." Su Hui said, "We can take back the 1 million yuan at most. The 200,000 yuan is our own money." Qiu Yutong was counting on buying a diamond ring with the 200,000 yuan. He immediately glared at them and said firmly, "Do what I say. Do you still want to open your shop or not? Is it up to you to decide whether we want to open our shop or not?" Liao Shuyuan had heard the whole story clearly. She could no longer hold back her anger and walked out of the massage room. Qiu Yutong looked back. Although he worked in the sanitary department, his rank was too low, so he didn't know Liao Shuyuan at all. He thought that she was just an ordinary patient here, so he shouted rudely again, "It's none of your business. Get out of my way." Liao Shuyuan's face was full of anger. For so many years, no one had dared to scold her. "What are you talking about? What's your attitude?" "What's my attitude? I'm from the inspection department of the sanitary bureau. I'm enforcing the law here. Don't interfere with my work, or I'll arrest you." Hearing this guy calling her his father, Liao Shuyuan trembled with anger. She pointed at his nose and shouted, "You're from the sanitary bureau, right? Do you want to arrest me? Just wait and see. I'll see how you can arrest me." Then he took out his mobile phone and dialed the number of Yang Haizheng, the director of the sanitary bureau. Old Yang, I don't care where you are. Get to the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine in 5 minutes. Yang Haijing was going out with his driver. He was shocked when he received Liao Shuyuan's call. In his memory, he had never seen the minister's wife so angry. He didn't know what had happened. No matter what, he had to get there immediately. He immediately shouted to the driver in the front, "Turn around. Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Be fast. We must get there in 5 minutes." After hanging up the phone, Liao Shuyuan was still angry. She dialed another number and said, "Cousin, I'm at the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. Someone said that they want to arrest me. Come here as soon as possible." Seeing that Liao Shuyuan had made the call, Chiu Yutang sneered and said, "Are you calling for help? Do you think I'm scared? I'll wait here. Let's see if you can find the king of the country." Qin Haodong couldn't help shaking his head. He had seen people who were courting death, but he had never seen such a person. He had abused his power, and now he was showing off in front of the minister's wife. It seemed that he could not keep his hat. Liao Shuyuan sneered and said, "Then let's wait and see if you can still laugh later." Ha! 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 Chiu Yutang laughed wildly and said, "I like to laugh. What's wrong with that? Don't tell me you can take off my hat." He had some connections in the sanitary bureau. One of the deputy directors had a good relationship with him, so he did not take Liao Shuyuan seriously at all. After saying that, he pulled a chair from the side and sat on it in a dignified manner. After a while, he looked at his watch and said, "Bitch, it's been 5 minutes. Why hasn't the person you're looking for come yet?" Chapter 745. Yang Haijing received a call from Liao Shuyuan and hurried over. As soon as he stepped into the clinic, he saw his subordinate sitting there arrogantly calling Liao Shuyuan AB*TCH. This gave him quite a fright. He slipped and almost fell to the ground. He was calling the minister's wife AB*TCH. Did this guy want to die? If you want to go home and do it to your father. Why did you do it to me? Chiu Yutang was sitting there with a complacent look on his face. Suddenly, he saw a man staggering in. He was about to panic when he saw that it was his director. "Director Yang, are you all right?" He quickly jumped up from the sofa and held Yang Haijing up. "Get out of here." Yang Haijing was going crazy. If it weren't for his identity, he would have slapped this guy in the face. After getting rid of Chiu Yutang, he came to Liao Shuyuan and said embarrassedly, "Sister Liao, I'm here. What's going on?" Chiu Yutang was completely dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the woman in front of him would call his director here. Who on earth was she? How could she be so awesome? Liao Shuyuan was so angry that her face turned livid. She said to Yang Haijing, "I remember that Minister Shao has repeatedly stressed that you should enforce the law in a civilized and honest manner. But what's wrong with your subordinate? He's swearing and abusing his power. He's simply a bandit. Is this how you lead your subordinates?" Her words scared not only Yang Haijing but also Chiu Yutang, who was trembling with fear. The woman who could know Minister Shao and reprimand their director like this must be Minister Shao's wife. Chiu Yutang really wanted to kill himself when he thought that he had just called the minister's wife AB*TCH and asked someone to arrest her. He didn't know how this young man got the minister's wife to come here. Didn't they say that this clinic had no powerful background? How could it have such a powerful background? He hated the pockmarked man to death. If it weren't for the fact that his hands and feet were not weak at this time, he would really go over and strangle this guy who had tricked his cousin. "Sister Liao, don't be angry. It's my fault. Don't worry. I'll deal with this matter now. I'll definitely satisfy you." Then Yang Haijing looked back at Chiu Yutang. If his eyes could kill, Chiu Yutang would have died 100 times. "Tell me, what's going on?" Chief. Chief, Chiu Yutong, who had been extremely arrogant just a moment ago, was now completely stuttering. He could not even say a complete sentence. Qin Haodong stepped forward and said, Director Yang, let me tell you. Only then did Yang Haijing notice Qin Haodong. He said in surprise, Little Qin, why are you here? Qin Haodong said, Director Yang, this is my clinic. Chief Chiu just blackmailed me. Hearing that, Yang Haijing's heart sank to the bottom. He had wondered why Liao Shuyuan would appear in a small clinic. It turned out that it was Qin Haodong's clinic. Now Qin Haodong's reputation in Huaxia was like the sun at high noon. Not only had he cured the old General Mu Bison in the capital, but he had also been awarded the Best Medical Contribution Award by Xiao Weiman. He was the honorary president of the World Medical Association and the widely recognized medical sage. Thinking that such a person had been blackmailed by his subordinate, he really had an impulse to kill Chiu Yutong. Here's the thing, Director Yang, Qin Haodong told him what had happened and finally said, Director Yang, I don't know the rules of the Sanitary Bureau. I don't know whether what Chief Chiu said is reasonable or not. If that's the rule of the Sanitary Bureau, I'll give him all the 1.2 million yuan now. No, you don't have to pay back a penny. Yang Haijing shouted angrily at Chiu Yutong, who told you to come out and enforce the law. From now on, you're fired. Hearing this, Chiu Yutong sat on the ground. He had thought that he would be fired at most, but he did not expect that Yang Haijing would punish him so severely. The pockmark-faced man and the middle-aged man, who were standing behind him, could not help but turn pale when they saw the scene in front of them. They did not expect that this small clinic would have such a powerful background. Then they felt a little lucky. Fortunately, this person was from the Sanitary Bureau and could not control them. Otherwise, they would be in big trouble today. But at this moment, a siren sounded and 2 police cars stopped in front of the clinic. 4 uniformed policemen jumped out of the cars and strode towards the clinic. Cousin, what's going on? Who said that they want to arrest you? While speaking, the leading middle-aged policeman came to Liao Shuyuan. He was Tan Shuguang, the director of the East City Public Security Bureau and also Liao Shuyuan's cousin. When he heard that his cousin had been wronged in his place, he immediately rushed over with his men. Liao Shuyuan pointed to Chiu Yutong and the other 2 people and said, It's them. They came here with fake ginseng to deceive people and show off. Seeing that the police were coming, the pockmark-faced man and the middle-aged man could no longer stay calm. They turned around and ran away. Because it happened so suddenly, when Tan Shuguang and the policeman behind him realized what was going on, the 2 people had already run more than 10 meters away. Qin Haodong sneered. It was not easy for them to run away in front of him. He secretly stretched out 2 fingers and flicked them gently. Then, 2 gusts of wind shot out. The pockmark-faced man and the middle-aged man were running happily. Suddenly, they felt their knees go soft and then fell to the ground. Due to their fast speed, the 2 of them fell heavily. By the time they got up, the policeman brought by Tan Shuguang had already rushed over and handcuffed them without saying a word. Tan Shuguang waved his hand and said, Take them back for a strict investigation. Qin Haodong pointed to Chiu Yutong on the ground and said, Officer, and this guy. I suspect that he is with those 2 people. Tan Shuguang did not know Qin Haodong. Seeing that Chiu Yutong was wearing the uniform of the Sanitary Bureau, he looked at Yang Haijing in embarrassment. They were officials in the same city, so they were naturally familiar with each other. Yang Haijing said, Director Tan, do as Dr. Qin said. This guy has been fired by the Sanitary Bureau. Tan Shuguang waved his hand and 2 more policemen came over and took Chiu Yutong into the police car. After everything was done, Liao Shuyuan's face relaxed a little. She pulled Tan Shuguang's sleeve and said, Shuguang, let me introduce you to Dr. Qin. He cured my cervical spondylosis. Tan Shuguang had heard about Qin Haodong from his cousin. When he heard that the young man in front of him was the famous medical sage, he quickly stretched out his hands and said, Dr. Qin, you're really young and promising. I've heard about you for a long time. It's my honor to meet you today. Although he was the director of the Public Security Bureau in Dongqing District, Qin Haodong was a miracle-working doctor. Who wouldn't get sick? Maybe he would ask Qin Haodong for help one day. Therefore, he did not put on airs and was very enthusiastic. Director Tan, you're welcome. Qin Haodong shook hands with Tan Shuguang politely. Liao Shuyuan said, Shuguang, old Yang, this is little Qin's clinic. Please take care of him in the future. Tan Shuguang and Yang Haizheng patted their chests and said, don't worry. Dr. Qin's business is our business. No matter what happens here in the future, we'll take care of it. They sat down and chatted for a while, and then they left one after another. At this time, there were no other patients in the clinic except Qin Haodong and Su Hui. Su Hui said to Qin Haodong, Haodong, thank you so much for today. Thanks to you, I really don't know what to do. Qin Haodong said, it's nothing. You don't have to be so polite. Su Hui sighed and said, this society is really complicated. I thought I could open a clinic if I had the ability, but I didn't expect to encounter so many things. A few days ago, she met a big man with a gold chain who came to play hooligan. Today, there was a big blackmailer. She really couldn't deal with it. Qin Haodong said, well, I'll ask Ma Wenjue to send 2 people to protect you tomorrow. You don't have to worry about trouble in the future. Su Hui said, can't you stay here with me? I can when I'm free, but I have to go to class and there are many other things. Su Hui nodded. After a moment of silence, she suddenly raised her head and said shyly, is what you just said true? Qin Haodong asked in surprise, what did you say? Su Hui was even more embarrassed. Her white cheeks seemed to be dripping blood, but she still plucked up her courage and said, that sentence, I'm yours. Qin Haodong's expression froze. He didn't think carefully just now and blurted out those words. He didn't expect that Su Hui would listen to him so carefully. In the face of such an affectionate question, he knew what it meant. If he agreed, it would mean that he had officially accepted Su Hui. But in the face of such a pure and quiet girl, he really hadn't thought about it yet. He had many girlfriends now, but he had carefully thought about each of them before making a decision. The only ones who seemed to be a little rash were Wei Yanran, Han Jiayu, and Zhao Qinggu. However, the 3 of them were all children of aristocratic families. If they didn't marry Qin Haodong, they couldn't decide their own marriage. Compared with marrying those old, ugly, or useless children of aristocratic families, marrying him was definitely the best choice, so they didn't have any psychological burden on this point. But Su Hui was different. She was just an ordinary person. Since she was a child, she had been longing for her own love and hoped to have a Prince Charming. Because of this, he was very cautious when facing Su Hui. Su Hui lowered her head and waited for a long time, but Qin Haodong didn't answer. Her shy expression slowly became cold. Qin Haodong was very embarrassed. He didn't want to make a rash decision, nor did he want to make the girl sad. Just when he didn't know what to do, the cell phone in his pocket rang. Papa, Grandma asked if you would come back for dinner. The phone call was from the little fellow. Qin Haodong couldn't wait to immediately hold her in his arms and kiss her. His daughter's call was really timely and helped him out of trouble. Tell Grandma I'm going back now. Qin Haodong hung up the phone, turned around and said to Su Hui, I'll go back first today. I'll come back tomorrow if I have time. After that, he left the clinic as if he was fleeing. Looking at his back in a hurry, Su Hui's face flashed with a sad look. This was the first time she had fallen in love with a man since she was a child, and she was deeply in love with him. However, Qin Haodong had never clearly expressed his acceptance of her feelings. When they were in Shanghai, he left without saying goodbye. Now she had chased him to the capital, but she still couldn't grasp him. Could it be that the 2 of them were destined not to be together in this life? After leaving the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine, Qin Haodong was also quite depressed. Love had always been a double-edged sword, and both of them might get hurt. He shook his head and tried his best not to think about these worrying things. When they got home, everyone had a lively dinner. After dinner, Lin Momo put on her clothes again. It seemed that she was ready to go out. Qin Haodong asked, "It's already night. Where are you going?" Adding more chapters for Fat Cat Rolling. Chapter 746. Lin Momo sighed and said, "I'm going to shoot a commercial for Lin's jewelry to enhance the influence of the brand. When I was in Shanghai, I made an appointment with a big star, but I haven't done it yet. The reason why I delayed coming to the capital for a few days is because of this commercial." Qin Haodong asked, "Why? Is it troublesome to shoot a commercial? We can just pay for it." "It's not troublesome to shoot a commercial, but the big star is. We made an agreement, but he changed it again and again. He always said that he was too busy and his schedule was too full. It's obvious that he doesn't take our commercial seriously. I just received a call from his agent. He said that he was free at 9:00 tonight and made an appointment to shoot the commercial in Movie City." Qin Haodong frowned. He had long heard that some stars like to play big shots. He used to think that they were far away from him, but he didn't expect to meet them today. "It's not safe for you to be alone at night. I'll go with you." Then he got in the car with Lin Momo and rushed to Movie City. With Qin Haodong's company, Lin Momo's heart was full of happiness. Although she was busy with work and had not yet broken through the threshold of the Saint Realm, she was still a level 9 Supreme Power Master. How could she not be safe? The little man just wanted to accompany her. After getting in the car, Qin Haodong said, "Why do we have to use such a big star? We can just change someone else. Anyway, we have to spend money. It doesn't matter who we choose." Lin Momo said, "The idea of our commercial this time is about a swordsman. After a narrow escape from death, he grabs a piece of jewelry from Lin's group and then gives it to his lover. In order to shoot a good commercial, we need a famous star, and Tong Xiaowu is just the right one. If we change someone else, all the slightly famous actors are like to play big shots, which will waste more time. It's better to use the current one. After so many times, I guess there won't be any changes this time. After all, he also likes to make money." Qin Haodong nodded. He also knew Tong Xiaowu because he often watched his fighting scenes in the dormitory. At that time, he had not practiced martial arts yet, so he thought that Tong Xiaowu's kung fu was very powerful. Now that he had become a real martial artist, he realized that it was just a fancy trick. The two chatted as they drove to Movie City. Although it was already night time, the whole city was still very lively. Many crew members were working overtime to film here. It was the first time that Qin Haodong had been to such a place. He looked around and saw many stars that he could only see on TV. When they arrived at the set, the studio was already set up. The two of them walked in and saw that the background, curtains, lights, and cameras were all ready. Among the crowd, there was a middle-aged man with a cap and a big beard. He was talking to two prop masters. He was wearing a green vest full of pockets. Needless to say, he was the director. He found it very interesting that all the directors were dressed the same way. He did not know if it was because of the rules of the industry or some other reason. "Oh, Miss Lin, you're here." After seeing Lin Momo, the bearded director immediately came over and greeted them politely. "Haodong, let me introduce you. This is Director Shui, and this is my boyfriend, Qin Haodong. He is also a major shareholder of Lin's jewelry and my boss." Director Shui's name was Shui Kue. When he heard that Qin Haodong was the boss of Lin's group, he was slightly stunned at first. Then he hurried to shake hands with him and said, "Mr. Qin, you're really young and promising." Qin Haodong greeted him politely and then asked, "Hasn't Tong Xiaowu arrived yet?" "He should be here soon. There are too many cars in the capital, so he may be a little late." Director Shui was a nice person and did not put on airs at all. He asked his assistant to bring a few stools and poured a cup of coffee for Qin Haodong and Lin Momo. Directors might be very talkative. Shui Kuei and Qin Haodong sat together and chatted while waiting. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, more than half an hour had passed. Qin Haodong looked at the time and found that it was already 9:30, half an hour later than the agreed time, but Tong Xiaowu still did not move at all. Qin Haodong could not help frowning. He had pushed back so many schedules and finally decided on a time, but now he was late again. Did this guy really think he was a big shot? As a very shrewd director, Shui Kuei noticed Qin Haodong's dissatisfaction. He quickly took the script from his assistant and said, "Mr. Qin, it's your first time here. Let me explain the script to you. If you think something is wrong, please give me some advice." Qin Haodong knew that it was not easy for the director, so he endured it. After explaining the script, another hour passed. He said, "Director Shui, please call them and see when they will arrive." "Okay, Mr. Qin, I'll call them now." As the big boss of the investor, Shui Kuei did not dare to offend Qin Haodong. He quickly took out his mobile phone and called Tong Xiaowu's assistant. 2 minutes later, he came back with his mobile phone and said with a smile, "Mr. Qin, please wait a moment." Boss Tong's assistant said that they are stuck in traffic. Qin Haodong was speechless. Although the capital was famous for traffic jams, it was already night. When he and Lin Momo arrived, there was no traffic jam. Now that nearly 2 hours had passed, how could there be a traffic jam? However, seeing Shui Kuei's embarrassed expression, Qin Haodong did not say anything since he had already called Tong Xiaowu. He thought that it would be fine after a while. However, after waiting for more than an hour, it was already midnight. They had drunk 4 or 5 cups of coffee, but there was still no response from Tong Xiaowu. Qin Haodong completely lost his patience. He put down the coffee cup in his hand and said to Shui Kuei, "Director Shui, please call them again and see what's going on." Shui Kuei also felt that it had been too long, so he took out his mobile phone and called Tong Xiaowu's assistant. As soon as the phone was connected, Qin Haodong took the phone from him and said, "I'm your investor. I'll give you another half an hour. If you don't arrive at the film city within half an hour, I'll terminate the contract." After that, he hung up the phone and gave it back to Shui Kuei. Although Tong Xiaowu was a superstar, Qin Haodong was not used to bad habits. If Tong Xiaowu continued to terminate the contract, he would find someone else at most. Shui Kuei did not expect that this gentle young boss was so hot-tempered. He took back the phone, hesitated for a moment and said, "Mr. Qin, Tong Xiaowu recently signed a new film company. The boss is very powerful. Please don't have any conflict with him when he comes. Do you know who's behind him?" Qin Haodong was bored waiting, so he asked. He was indeed a little curious. He did not know what kind of background could make Tong Xiaowu so unscrupulous and ignore the investor. Shui Kuei said, "You're making things difficult for me. I'm just a small director and I don't know much about the inside story. I just heard that the new Dongxing Film and Television Company has a strong background." "Oh." Qin Haodong nodded casually and did not take it seriously. Even the 7 great families in the capital had been defeated by him, so he did not care about the background. The phone call worked. In less than half an hour, a young man in his 30s came in from outside. Before he came to Qin Haodong, the whole studio was filled with a strong smell of alcohol. It was Tong Xiaowu. At this time, he stumbled and did not fall down with the help of his assistant. "I'm just a few minutes late. Do you have to keep calling me? Do you want to die?" Tong Xiaowu vented his anger discontentedly and the smell of alcohol became stronger as he spoke. Shui Kuei quickly said with a smile, "Boss Tong, don't be angry. Let's finish the shooting as soon as possible. You can also go back and have a rest." He should have stopped while he was ahead, but Tong Xiaowu did not buy it. He turned to look at Lin Momo and said, "Girl, you just invested a few dollars. It's not a big deal. I'm just a little late. Why are you rushing me?" Lin Momo's schedule had been postponed several times. When she was finally ready to shoot, this man was drunk again. She said with a cold face, "Mr. Tong, according to the contract, we should have finished shooting a long time ago. You postponed it several times and now you've drunk so much. Can we still shoot the show?" Seeing that Lin Momo did not buy it, Tong Xiaowu immediately lost his temper and shouted angrily, "It's none of your business. I have many friends in the capital. What's wrong with drinking a few glasses of wine?" Seeing that the two sides were getting fiercer and fiercer, Shuekue quickly stood up to smooth things over. You too, peace makes money. Don't quarrel. Since Boss Tong is here, let's hurry up and shoot the advertisement. He was just a small director, and it was very difficult for him to be sandwiched between the big stars and the investors. He could not afford to offend either side. Lin Momo said angrily, "Look at him. He's drunk. Can he still shoot the show?" At this time, Tong Xiaowu's head and face were red and he was very drunk. He could not shoot the advertisement. Shuekue said, "He can. Please believe me. It's no problem. I'll ask the makeup artist to do a good job. It won't affect the shooting." Seeing that things had come to this, Lin Momo snorted and said nothing. But Tong Xiaowu shouted again, "Hurry up and don't waste my time. I'll only give you half an hour. No matter what, I'm going back to sleep." "What? How can half an hour be enough? It's written in the contract that it's 3 hours. Lin Momo's anger burst out again. Half an hour was not even enough to put on makeup for this guy. The contract? It's written for you. It's useless to me. Although Tong Xiaowu was drunk, he was still very arrogant. "I'll tell you, I said half an hour and I won't shoot more than that." As he spoke, he staggered forward. At this time, he seemed to see Lin Momo's beautiful face. "Girl, I didn't expect you to be so beautiful. If you agree to sleep with me tonight, I'll shoot for 3 hours. Before he finished speaking, he suddenly felt that his collar was grabbed by someone. Then he flew up and fell to the ground with a bang. Qin Haodong originally wanted to let Lin Momo deal with it, but this guy was so annoying. If he did not teach him a lesson, he would feel sorry for himself. Tong Xiaowu was in a daze. He struggled to get up from the ground and cursed, "Who the hell? Who the hell dares to hit me?" Shuekue was stunned. He did not expect that the gentle little boss would hit him so easily. Tong Xiaowu was a fighter, so he was very strong. He weighed at least 70 kilograms. But Qin Haodong seemed to weigh nothing and threw him to the ground casually. "Mr. Qin, calm down. Mr. Dong is just drunk. He's not like this usually." Qin Haodong sneered and said, "Drunk? I'll sober him up if he drinks too much." Add updates for the readers with monthly votes. Chapter 747. Then he stepped forward and kicked Tong Xiaowu in the chest, making him fall to the ground again. Then he grabbed a box of mineral water next to him, unscrewed a bottle, and poured the water into Tong Xiaowu's mouth. Seeing that their boss was being beaten, Tong Xiaowu's 2 assistants and bodyguards came to their senses and immediately came over to stop Qin Haodong. But they were too weak to stop Qin Haodong. Qin Haodong just waved his hand casually, and the 2 of them flew out. Tong Xiaowu's agent was standing next to him. She was so shocked that her mouth was wide open. If the camera had not been turned on, she would have thought that it was a special effect. How could a person be so powerful? As a woman, she did not dare to stop him. She took out her mobile phone from her pocket, ran out of the studio in a hurry, and called for help. Qin Haodong saw all this, but he did not care. He wanted to see who was behind Tong Xiaowu. He stepped on Tong Xiaowu's chest with one foot and pinched Tong Xiaowu's nose with the other hand. Then he poured the mineral water into his mouth one after another. Poor Tong Xiaowu. Although he was lying in the studio, he felt like he was drowning. His stomach was getting bigger and bigger, as if it would burst at any time. Shui Kuei stamped his feet anxiously, but he did not dare to stop Qin Haodong. After drinking 6 or 7 bottles of mineral water in a row, Qin Haodong grabbed Tong Xiaowu's ankle and lifted him up. He walked to the door, put Tong Xiaowu head first into the trash can, and then kneed Tong Xiaowu in the stomach. Tong Xiaowu spat out all the mineral water and wine in his stomach, and the air was suddenly filled with an unpleasant smell. Seeing that Tong Xiaowu was almost done, Qin Haodong threw him into the studio and said to Shui Kuei, "Now you're sober. Let's start filming." Tong Xiaowu lay on the ground like a dead pig, gasping for breath. He was really sober after the fight just now. After he regained his breath, he jumped up from the ground and shouted, "Boy, how dare you hit me? I'll kill you." After he sobered up, the first thing he wanted to do was to get revenge on Qin Haodong. He had been a star for so many years, but he had never been bullied like this. After that, the guy rushed over aggressively and kicked Qin Haodong in the face. To an ordinary person, this kick was fast and ruthless. Indeed, he did have some foundation in martial arts. A sneer appeared at the corner of Qin Haodong's mouth. This guy might have acted too many fighting scenes and really thought that he was a martial arts master. In front of Qin Haodong, his skills were no different from children's tricks. He waved his hand casually and slapped Tong Xiaowu's chest. Before Tong Xiaowu knew what was going on, he was sent flying again and fell to the ground with a plop. For the advertisement shooting, Qin Haodong controlled his strength very well and did not damage the surrounding facilities. "Your mother." Tong Xiaowu got up from the ground and rushed toward Qin Haodong again. He had been practicing martial arts since he was a child, and his muscles were incomparably sturdy. He did not believe that he would lose to this weak-looking gigolo. But when he was slapped away again, he was completely convinced that he was no match for Qin Haodong. He looked at Qin Haodong with fear in his eyes. Seeing the young man walking toward him again, Tong Xiaowu said nervously, "What are you going to do? Don't come near me." Qin Haodong stood in front of him and said, "I'll give you 2 choices now. The first one is to shoot the advertisement well. The second one is to get out of here, but you have to pay us the liquidated damages according to the contract." Seeing that Qin Haodong did not attack him again, Tong Xiaowu became arrogant again. He pointed at Qin Haodong's nose and shouted, "Boy, you hit me and you still want to pay the liquidated damages? Dream on. Do you know who my boss is? My boss will skin you alive when he comes. Don't think that you're great because you know some martial arts. You're nothing in front of my boss." Qin Haodong's curiosity was aroused by Shui Kuei just now, so he asked with interest, "Then tell me who your boss is. Let's see if he can scare me." Tong Xiaowu shouted arrogantly, "My boss is the famous Dr. Qin Haodong. Even Mei Zhanlong, the #1 practitioner in Hong Kong, was defeated by my boss, not to mention you. Just wait for your death." It was Qin Haodong's turn to be stunned. He could not figure out when he had become this guy's boss. Lin Momo was also stunned. What was going on? When did her man become the boss of a film company? Seeing their shocked expressions, Tong Xiaowu was proud. He thought that he had scared them, so he said again, "What do you think? Are you scared? It's not too late for you to kneel down and apologize to me. Otherwise, when my boss arrives, you won't even have the chance to kneel down." After the shock, Qin Haodong had already guessed the relationship between them. He smiled and said, "Well, I'll wait for your boss. Let's see who won't even have the chance to kneel down." Then he pulled a chair and sat down next to him. Tong Xiaowu shouted fiercely, "Then wait and see. You'll be killed later." Shui Kuei quietly walked up to Qin Haodong, bowed down and whispered, "Mr. Qin, why don't you hide for a while? The boss of Dongxing Company is really powerful. There's no need for you to have a head-on conflict with him." Qin Haodong chuckled. He had never heard of anyone being scared off by himself. He said, "Director Shui, don't worry. Maybe their boss is not that terrible." Hearing their conversation, Tong Xiaowu shouted fiercely, "You're so naive. Let me tell you, our boss can kill people without batting an eye. He even dared to kill the young master of the Gong family in Hong Kong. Why would he care about you?" Qin Haodong was speechless. When did he become a murderous devil? At this moment, there was a flurry of footsteps outside the studio. 7 or 8 people walked into the studio, led by a very beautiful young woman. It was Ouyang Shanshan. After receiving the call, Ouyang Shanshan was also very annoyed. She had established Dongxing Film Company and no one dared to offend her in Hong Kong. She did not expect that such a thing would happen as soon as she arrived in the capital. "Miss Ouyang, you're here." After seeing Ouyang Shanshan, Tong Xiaowu immediately went up to her and said, "Miss Ouyang, let me tell you, this guy is very arrogant. I think we'd better call the boss here, or we won't be able to deal with him." Ouyang Shanshan came to the capital for another purpose this time. She did not want to disturb Qin Haodong unless she had to. After hearing Tong Xiaowu's words, she looked in the direction of his finger and saw Qin Haodong looking at her with a smile. She quickly put on a cold face and said to Tong Xiaowu, "Who do you want to deal with?" "It's this guy. I was only a few minutes late, but he dared to hit me. We can't let him go this time, or we won't be able to live in the capital in the future." Tong Xiaowu pointed at Qin Haodong and was talking incessantly, but Ouyang Shanshan raised her hand and slapped him hard in the face. "Miss Ouyang, why did you hit me?" Tong Xiaowu was completely stunned. Since the establishment of the Dongxing Company, Ouyang Shanshan had been the general manager. As an artist, she was very kind to the artists of the company and had never lost her temper like today. "You're so stupid. I'll deal with you later." Ouyang Shanshan glared at this guy and quickly walked to Qin Haodong and Lin Momo. "Haodong, Sister Momo, why are you here?" After greeting them, Qin Haodong said, "Shanshan, did you set up the Dongxing Film Company?" Ouyang Shanshan said, "Yes, I registered the company in your name. You own 100% of the shares. Now you're my boss." Qin Haodong was speechless. It was such a coincidence that his own company asked him to shoot an advertisement. If he had known this would happen, he would not have gone through so much trouble. Ouyang Shanshan asked, "Haodong, Sister Momo, what's going on?" Lin Momo told them the whole story from beginning to end. Ouyang Shanshan's pretty face suddenly turned cold. She turned around and shouted at Tong Xiaowu, "Is that so? Who told you to be so arrogant?" As an actress, after she set up the Dongxing Company, she would not bully her artists. Secondly, she asked them to be humble and not be arrogant. But she did not expect that the hateful Tong Xiaowu would be so arrogant to Qin Haodong. Tong Xiaowu was standing next to them. At this time, he was about to collapse. When he was sent to Ouyang Shanshan's Dongxing Entertainment Company, he had heard about this extremely powerful boss. It was because of such a boss that he was even more arrogant and unscrupulous. He thought that even if he went too far, the boss would support him. But he had never expected that he would run into the boss when he was acting arrogant in Huaxia. It made him want to die. "Boss, I'm really sorry. I didn't know it was you. I didn't know it was your company. I apologize to you now. Please forgive me." Tong Xiaowu ran to Qin Haodong and bowed to apologize like a pug. At this time, although he was nervous, he was not particularly afraid. He was a famous A-list actor. Even a very powerful boss would not fire him casually. After all, no one would say no to money. But this time, he was wrong. Qin Haodong gave Ouyang Shanshan 2 billion yuan to open the entertainment company and not to make money, but to let Ouyang Shanshan be free from the hidden rules in the industry and be her own boss. That was all. Qin Haodong did not even look at him. He said to Ouyang Shanshan, "This kind of person is not suitable to stay in our company at all. Fire him." Ouyang Shanshan would not deny Qin Haodong's words. She said to Tong Xiaowu, "Did you hear that? Pack up your things and get out of here. You have nothing to do with the Dongxing Company in the future." Tong Xiaowu was stunned at first. He did not expect that Qin Haodong would really fire him. Now the Dongxing Company was the overlord of the entertainment industry. No other company would dare to take over the artists they fired. Even though he was an A-list star, he was afraid that he would lose his job and be buried in the vast sea of people. Thinking of this, he did not dare to doubt Qin Haodong anymore. He knelt down in front of Qin Haodong and said, "Boss, please, I was wrong this time. I won't dare to act arrogantly again. I'll be an honest man and do things down to earth. Please give me another chance." Qin Haodong waved his hand and said to the bodyguards of the daddy security company brought by Ouyang Shanshan, "Throw him out of here." Although they had just met, he had already seen through Tong Xiaowu's nature. Not only was he acting arrogant, but there was also something wrong with his nature. Naturally, he would not give him any chance. Some people were like this. Once they became famous, they would completely forget their nature. Chapter 748. The bodyguards did not hesitate to grab Tong Xiaowu and drag him out of the studio like a dead dog. Ouyang Shanshan said, "Haodong, Sister Momo, what kind of star do you need for the advertisement? I'll find one for you now." Lin Momo briefly explained her idea and requirements. Ouyang Shanshan took out her mobile phone and made a call. After hanging up the phone, she pulled a chair and sat next to Qin Haodong and Lin Momo. She said, "I've already called him. He'll be here soon. He's also an actor of our company. His name is Wu Kai, and he's also an A-list actor like Tong Xiaowu. But he's very humble and doesn't have the bad temper of those big stars." Lin Momo had also heard of this person's name. He was indeed a popular A-list star. She sighed and said, "Shanshan, you're so capable. There are so many stars in the company." Ouyang Shanshan glanced at Qin Haodong and said, "It's not that I'm capable, but that you're famous." Qin Haodong said innocently, "What does it have to do with me? I don't know these people." Since they were all waiting here, Ouyang Shanshan told them about the establishment of the Dongxing Company. It turned out that Qin Haodong killed Gong Tianmiao's son, Gong Tingfei, at the cocktail party of the Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, which shocked all the upper-class rich in Hong Kong. Since then, no one dared to do business with the Gong family, and even the previous contracts were all invalid. Since then, the Gong family had plummeted, and Li Meiyu replaced Gong Tianmiao as the president of the Chamber of Commerce. Because of Qin Haodong's deterrence, after Ouyang Shanshan established the Dongxing Entertainment Company, other entertainment companies came to flatter her and sent their A-list entertainment stars as gifts. As a result, the Dongxing Entertainment Company was just established, but it had many stars. After the introduction, Ouyang Shanshan looked at Qin Haodong and said, "Now you know that these people are all here for your fame. It's because of your awesome boss that Tong Xiaowu dares to be so unscrupulous." Qin Haodong smiled helplessly. It seemed that he had brought too much deterrence to those rich people in Hong Kong. At this time, Wu Kai rushed to the studio. When he entered and saw Ouyang Shanshan, he said respectfully, "Boss, are you looking for me?" "I'm not the one looking for you. It's the big boss." Ouyang Shanshan introduced him to Qin Haodong. "This is the big boss of our company, Mr. Qin Haodong." "Hello, boss." Wu Kai did not expect the legendary boss to be right in front of him. He hurriedly went forward and greeted him respectfully. Qin Haodong nodded and asked Lin Momo to tell him what had happened. Wu Kai was overjoyed to hear that he was going to shoot an advertisement for the boss. This was an opportunity that others could not get even if they begged for it. After the shooting was done, Qin Haodong handed everything over to director Shui Kuei and walked out of the studio with Lin Momo and Ouyang Shanshan. After going out, he said, "Shanshan, why didn't you tell me you were in the capital?" Ouyang Shanshan said, "I've been preparing for a concert these days. It's my farewell performance. I wanted to give you a surprise after the concert was ready. I didn't expect this to happen tonight." Qin Haodong said in surprise, "What? You're leaving the music industry? What a pity." Lin Momo also said, Shanshan, you don't know how many fans you have. If you quit the music industry like this, many people will be sad. Ouyang Shanshan smiled and said sadly, I know that, but that's not the life I want now. She used to be very eager to be a star and take singing as her lifelong pursuit. But now she had changed. As a woman, she was eager to find her own love. Forget it. I've made my decision. Let's not talk about it. She took out 2 VIP tickets from her pocket and gave them to Qin Haodong. These are the tickets for tomorrow night. You and Sister Momo must come. Qin Haodong took the tickets and said, okay, I'll be there. Ouyang Shanshan said goodbye to them and went back under the escort of bodyguards. She still had a lot to prepare for tomorrow's concert. Lin Momo took another look at the studio. Both Xue Kuei and Wu Kai were working very seriously, so she didn't stay there to supervise them. She got in the car with Qin Haodong and rushed to the Tang sect. After getting in the car, Qin Haodong handed the 2 tickets in his hand to Lin Momo and said while driving, come with me tomorrow night. Lin Momo said, I won't go. Why? Don't you like her songs very much? It's a farewell concert. If you don't listen this time, you may not have a chance in the future. Lin Momo said with a smile, the farewell concert is for others. They can't hear it in the future, but I can listen to the live concert at any time. What do you mean? Qin Haodong asked in surprise. What else can I mean? Can't you see Sister Shanshan's feelings for you? I have a hunch that sooner or later she will become one of us. Then she can listen to whatever she wants at home. Why do you have to go to the concert and squeeze with those people? Also, I can tell that this concert was specially prepared for you, so I won't go and blindly interfere. Qin Haodong was speechless. From the bottom of his heart, he hadn't figured out how to deal with his relationship with Ouyang Shanshan. He didn't want to delay her acting career because of him. Before Lin Momo finished speaking, she began to look at the 2 VIP tickets in her hand and suddenly shouted, Hey? Haodong, look at these tickets. They are so strange. Isn't it just a ticket? What's the fuss about? Qin Haodong slowed down the car, took a ticket and looked at it. Suddenly, he was stunned. Generally speaking, the concert tickets were printed with close-up photos of the singers themselves, but Ouyang Shanshan's ticket did not have that. The overall style of the ticket was very simple. It was printed with a little monk in hemp shoes and cloth clothes sitting cross-legged on the ground. Behind him stood a slim girl, which looked indescribable. In the corner of the ticket, there were 2 words printed, Blossom. No wonder Lin Momo was surprised. The ticket was indeed a bit strange, and he couldn't see the purpose of it. He said, It's really strange. Why is there a little monk on the concert ticket? What does it mean? Is Shanshan going to become a monk? Even if she becomes a monk, she will be a nun. She can't be a monk. After having the idea that Ouyang Shanshan was going to escape, Qin Haodong couldn't help but feel nervous, as if he was about to lose something important. Lin Momo said, Don't guess blindly. I'm afraid only Sister Shanshan knows the meaning of this ticket. Qin Haodong nodded. It should be like this. There must be some other meaning of this ticket. The next day, he first visited Mu Bison and treated him with rejuvenative acupuncture. Then, he went to Su Hui's traditional Chinese medicine clinic to help. After dinner, he went to the capital stadium to watch Ouyang Shanshan's concert. He also had a special hunch that this concert should be related to his relationship with Ouyang Shanshan, so he didn't call other girls and came to the scene alone. Ouyang Shanshan had a super popularity in Huaxia, and this was her farewell concert. Therefore, the whole venue was full, and the ticket price was several times higher than before. As Qin Haodong walked towards the entrance, he suddenly saw a 17 or 18-year-old girl next to him crying sadly. He walked over and asked, Little sister, what's wrong with you? The girl cried and said, I'm a fan of Ouyang Shanshan. Today is her last concert, but I didn't buy a ticket. I may never see her sing again in the future. It seemed that what Lin Momo said was true. Ouyang Shanshan's retirement would indeed make many fans sad, but he couldn't help with this kind of thing. The only thing he could do was to give the extra ticket to the girl in front of him. Take it. Hurry up and go in. He gave the ticket in his hand to the girl. When the girl saw the ticket in his hand, she immediately stopped crying. She jumped up in surprise and said, "Big brother, it's a VIP ticket for the concert. How much do you want to sell it to me?" Although she was very eager to go to the concert, she didn't have much money in her pocket. She couldn't even afford the high-priced ticket in the hands of the scalpers, let alone the VIP ticket. "It's free. It's for you." "What? Free?" The girl opened her mouth in surprise. She knew the price of the concert very well. This VIP ticket must be at least 5 figures. "Big brother, you don't want to hit on me, do you?" Qin Haodong glanced at the little girl. Although she was beautiful, she could only be regarded as cute compared with his excellent girlfriends. "Little sister, you think too much. If you don't want it, I'll take it back." No, this ticket is already mine." The little girl quickly held the ticket in her hand tightly. It seemed that if Qin Haodong wanted to take it back, she would fight with him. Qin Haodong smiled and turned to walk into the stadium. He took the ticket and found his seat, which was the center of the front row. It could be said to be the best seat in the audience. Sitting here, he could see everything on the stage. Not long after he sat down, the little girl ran over with a large bag of drinks and popcorn. "Big brother, you invited me to the concert, and I'll treat you to popcorn," the little girl said as she put the snack bag in her hand between the two of them. Then she grabbed a handful of popcorn and ate it happily. Qin Haodong also ate a few. It tasted good, but it was not good for his health. The little girl said while eating, "Big brother, do you have a girlfriend? If not, I can consider taking you as my boyfriend." Qin Haodong looked at her and smiled. "How can I not have a girlfriend when I'm so handsome?" "You have no chance." Seeing that she was rejected, the little girl pouted cutely. "Even if you have a girlfriend, so what? Can she be more beautiful than Ouyang Shanshan?" Qin Haodong said, "Almost, at least not worse than Ouyang Shanshan." "You're bragging. Ouyang Shanshan is the most beautiful woman in the world. No one can be more beautiful than her. Even I am much worse than Shanshan." Speaking of this, the little girl said with a look of longing, "If any man can marry Ouyang Shanshan, I guess his ancestors for 18 generations must be monks and Taoists, chanting Buddha and cultivating every day. Otherwise, he wouldn't have such good luck." Qin Haodong said with a smile, "How can monks and Taoists have descendants?" The little girl's expression froze, and then she said, "Don't worry so much. Anyway, if he can marry Ouyang Shanshan, his ancestors must be blessed." Qin Haodong smiled. With such a lovely little girl sitting next to him, he was not lonely. Soon it was time for the concert to begin. In the deafening cheers, Ouyang Shanshan walked to the stage slowly and officially began her singing. Chapter 749. Just like before, her voice was still as beautiful as ever. Soon, the entire venue fell into a state of intoxication. After the improvement of the physique-improving pill, Ouyang Shanshan's body was much better than that of other singers, so she did not show any fatigue after singing more than a dozen songs in a row. Qin Haodong watched quietly from below the stage. The beauty was as beautiful as jade, and her voice was beautiful. But he still couldn't understand why there was a little monk printed on the ticket, and what was the connection between it and the concert. Unknowingly, the concert had come to an end. Ouyang Shanshan went off the stage to change clothes, and the host went to the front stage. "Dear singers, the next song will be the last song sung by Miss Ouyang Shanshan. Please listen carefully." Hearing that it would be the last song, the fans present had extremely complicated emotions, and some even shed tears silently. The little girl next to her cried with snot and tears, "I don't know what Sister Shanshan is thinking. Why did she quit the music industry? Does she not want us anymore? Qin Haodong really didn't understand the thoughts of these fans, so he comforted her. In fact, you don't have to be so sad. Everyone has their own choice of life. Maybe Shanshan has found a way of life she likes more. Hearing this, the little girl immediately stopped crying, blinked her big watery eyes, looked at him and said, "Do you think it's possible that Sister Shanshan has found the guy who is emitting smoke from the ancestral grave and wants to get married and have children with him, so she doesn't want us anymore?" Qin Haodong hesitated for a moment and said, "Maybe." At this moment, the lights on the stage quickly dimmed, and then the voiceover sounded. Once upon a time, there was a little monk living in the temple, and a princess living next to the temple. They were not far from each other. One day, her father took the princess to the temple to worship Buddha, and she met the little monk who liked to knock on the wooden fish. Later, the princess often went to the temple to play with the little monk, and they became childhood friends. They grew up together and were innocent. Seeing the story being told on the stage of the concert, everyone was a little confused. However, everyone could tell that the voice came from Ouyang Shanshan's mouth, so no one raised any questions, and no one made any noise. They all listened quietly. Qin Haodong's heart skipped a beat. The little monk was mentioned in the story. Was it related to the little monk on the ticket? At this moment, the voiceover continued telling the story. The young princess often told the little monk stories. The little monk knocked on the wooden fish for the princess to listen to. The princess knew that the little monk liked to eat sugar-coated haws, so she brought him one every day. The princess knew that she had fallen in love with the little monk. Every day, she would go to a faraway shop to buy the little monk's favorite candied haws. Unknowingly, they had spent 6 years together. The little monk's cultivation level was getting higher and higher, and the young princess was getting more and more slender and elegant. The little monk became a big monk, and the princess reached the marriageable age. Suddenly, one day, the princess's father came looking for the abbot with a serious expression. That day, the princess did not have the usual smile on her face, nor did she bring the candied haws with her. Seeing the little monk, the princess pulled his sleeve and asked, "Do you like me?" The little monk knocked on the wooden fish silently and did not answer. Later, the princess was taken away by her father and left the temple. Before leaving, she shouted to the little monk, "I like you." But the little monk still sat there blankly, and the only response was the sound of the wooden fish. And this "I like you" was the last thing the princess said to the little monk. The hall with tens of thousands of people was still silent. Some people even felt the emotion in the story, and their hearts were filled with inexplicable sadness. Since the princess left, she never came to the temple again. The little monk thought that she was very happy and kept knocking on the wooden fish every day. Until one day, the little monk suddenly heard the bad news that the princess was dead. She was wearing a red wedding dress and died on the night of her wedding. The cause of her death was that a prince forced the princess to marry him. The princess refused, so the prince forcibly destroyed the princess's chastity. In the end, the princess resisted with her life. The little monk was heartbroken. He picked up the long sword and said to the Buddha in front of him, "Since the Buddha didn't save her, I'll avenge her even if I have to become a devil." The next day, the little monk found the prince who forced the princess to die and pierced his throat with his sword. But so what if he had taken revenge? The dead could not be resurrected. From then on, the little monk died of depression in the temple. That sentence, "I like you," it will become his lifelong regret. The story ended here. Although some people knew that this was the story behind a recently popular song, Ouyang Shanshan's emotional narration still made them burst into tears. The little girl next to Qin Haodong burst into tears and murmured, "It's so touching. That monk is so stupid. Why didn't he take the princess away earlier?" This story was touching, but it also aroused everyone's curiosity. What was the purpose of Ouyang Shanshan telling this story? Do you want to sing this song? Sure enough, the music started. The last song Ouyang Shanshan sang was the famous online song, "Save Me, Not Save Her." In the past, her voice was known for being sweet and melodious, but now this song is full of desolation and sadness, making people feel extremely sad. The wind is still blowing. Messed up whose youth he grew his hair long. Put away the wooden fish. She no longer exists under the Bodhi tree, spent several more summers. I still popular? She is no more. The morning bell is ringing a few times. Not saving the flowers in the world. I also look down and smile. I don't see your long hair anymore. Ask Buddha with a smile. Save millions of people. Why don't you save her? This song was originally very sad and moving. Now with Ouyang Shanshan's performance, it was played to the extreme. After the song was finished, the eyes of all the audience in the stadium were wet with tears. At this moment, the audience fell into silence. The spotlight shone on Ouyang Shanshan's face, and her delicate face was covered with crystal tears. She held the microphone and said emotionally, "The reason why the little monk can't forgive himself is that this was a tragedy that could have been prevented, but it happened. The two people who loved each other couldn't be together because of the little monk's avoidance. In the end, they were separated by life and death. The little monk would rather give up his persistence and faith and become a devil to avenge the princess. It can be seen how much he loved the princess. But why don't you dare to face your love? Do you have to wait until the day I die to face my feelings?" This time, there was an uproar in the silent venue. The sad atmosphere had been driven away by the shock. Everyone understood that Ouyang Shanshan was going to confess to the person she liked. No wonder she spent so much time and effort to carefully plan this song. Oh my God, Ouyang Shanshan has someone she likes. Why didn't I know? My Shanshan is going to say goodbye to the music industry for that person? It's so hateful. What kind of man is he? He made my Shanshan take the initiative to confess. Can't he take the initiative? Although there were still tears on the little girl's face, her expression became excited. She hit Qin Haodong's shoulder and said angrily, "Who do you think won the heart of my goddess? This guy is so hateful. He didn't take the initiative to confess. If I knew who he was, I would cut him up." At this time, Ouyang Shanshan continued on the stage, "If there are flowers to be plucked, you should pluck them. Don't wait until there are no flowers. The reason why I named today's concert Blooming Flowers is that I want the love between us to bloom like flowers. Now I just want to ask, do you want to protect me for the rest of your life, or do you want to wait until you lose me and become a devil?" After these words, the crowd, which had just calmed down a little, became excited again. Oh my God, this lucky guy is actually here. Who is he? It can't be me. Is the goddess confessing to me? Dream on. How can you be worthy of our Shanshan with that naughty look of yours? The little girl grasped Qin Haodong's arm tightly. It seemed that she was talking to herself or asking him, "Who do you think is the bastard who burned incense for 18 generations and made his ancestors smoke?" "It's me. I'm the bastard who burned incense for his ancestors." Qin Haodong smiled at the little girl, then gently pushed her hand away and stepped toward the stage. He had never thought about how to deal with the relationship between him and Ouyang Shanshan. But today, the girl had done so much for him in public, and he could no longer remain silent. The song just now also made him understand that it was better to grasp the present than to lose it and become a devil. Ouyang Shanshan stood on the stage. Because of the light, she couldn't see what was happening below the stage. She could only secretly guess in her heart what the man's reaction would be after hearing her confession. But after waiting for a long time, there was still no movement below the stage. As time went by, her heart became colder and colder. Although she was under the gaze of tens of thousands of people, she felt extremely lonely. Could it be that he really didn't love her and was really indifferent to her confession? Just as she was getting more and more desperate, suddenly a clear voice rang in her ear, "You don't need to be saved by the gods and Buddhas. I'll protect you for the rest of your life." These short words made Ouyang Shanshan's tears rush out like a flood bursting a dam. Her heart was filled with great happiness in an instant. He's here, he's really here. He loves me and he'll protect me for the rest of my life. Although it was a stadium with 70,000 to 80,000 people, the oath of love just now was clearly heard by everyone. That man is here. The man Shanshan is looking for has really appeared. Who the hell is he? Who can make Shanshan fall in love with him so much? When everyone came to their senses and looked at the stage together, they could only see a resolute figure holding Ouyang Shanshan's hand and walking backstage together. Ouyang Shanshan had many fans. Qin Haodong didn't want to become a public enemy because of her. Naturally, he wouldn't expose himself to everyone's eyes, so he chose to take her off the stage in this way. It wasn't until his figure disappeared that the little girl who had just sat next to him came to her senses. My God, no wonder he has 2 VIP tickets in his hand. It turns out that he is Sister Shanshan's boyfriend. This stinky guy, how dare he hide so much from me? Sooner or later, I'll get even with him. The little girl was so angry that she stamped her feet, but she suddenly realized that she hadn't even asked his name. Where could she find him? Qin Haodong took Ouyang Shanshan to a lounge backstage. They were still hugging each other and their eyes were looking at each other. Haodong, is what you just said true? Will you really protect me for the rest of my life? Of course it's true, as long as you don't leave me. No, you're the person I love the most. I'll never leave you. Ouyang Shanshan said excitedly and offered her lips. The two kissed fiercely. After a long time, they slowly separated. Qin Haodong said, "You go back with me tonight." I heard this song by chance and felt that I liked it very much. It was very suitable for the current writing situation, so I added such a plot. This chapter is not pretentious or face-slapping. It is a pure description of a relationship. I don't know if you like it. Chapter 750. Ouyang Shanshan said shyly, "Not tonight. This is my concert. Although it's over, there are still many follow-up matters to deal with. How about tomorrow? I'll see you tomorrow. Well, pay attention to rest and don't tire yourself out." Qin Haodong knew that he couldn't help much even if he stayed. He kissed Ouyang Shanshan's red lips gently and left the venue. As he drove, he hummed the song that Ouyang Shanshan had just sung. Thinking of his reincarnation, he couldn't help thanking God for giving him a chance to be reborn. After today's concert, his mood had changed a lot. He didn't want to make any girl sad, and he didn't want to leave any regrets. It was already midnight, and there were fewer pedestrians on the road. The Tang sect was located in the suburbs, far from the stadium, and he had to pass a remote road on the way. He was driving on the road when he suddenly saw a champagne-colored BMW 7 Series parked on the side of the road in front of him. The door was open, but there was no one in the car. At the same time, there was a faint cry for help. The sound was far away from here. It came from a dense forest on the side of the road. If it weren't for his excellent senses, he wouldn't have heard the cry for help. It was a woman who was shouting for help. She was screaming miserably, and then her mouth seemed to be blocked by something. He parked the car on the side of the road. Since he had met her, it was fate. Naturally, he couldn't just stand by and do nothing. In the woods, a young and beautiful woman was tied up like a dumpling with a rope. Her mouth was stuffed with a towel, and her eyes were full of fear. Opposite her stood 2 wretched men. One was thin and tall, and the other was short and fat. At this time, there was a lewd look on their faces. They both had obscene smiles on their faces. The short and fat man said, "Brother, I didn't expect to meet such a terrible woman. Which of us will do it first?" The thin and tall man first gave a harsh lewd laugh. Then he said, "We are brothers. Of course, we will do it together." After saying that, the 2 of them unbuttoned their clothes and walked toward the woman. The woman let out a whimper and struggled desperately like a helpless little sheep. "This little girl is so beautiful. I've lived for half my life, but I've never seen such a beautiful woman. It's worth it to have sex with her once." As the short and fat man spoke, he reached out to grab the woman's chest. Right at this moment, a furious shout sounded out, "Since you want to die, then die." The short and fat man was startled and pulled out a dagger from his waist. He looked back and saw a handsome young man standing behind them. The lanky man took out a switchblade from his pocket. Seeing that Qin Haodong was alone, Saber shouted fiercely, "Mind your own business, or I'll stab you to death." Seeing that Qin Haodong looked gentle and not strong, and that the two people on his side were holding weapons in their hands and had an absolute advantage, the chunky man also relaxed. He laughed and said, "Kid, do you also want a share of the spoils? Don't worry, we'll let you have some fun after we're done." But before he could finish, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. Then, he flew out and hit a big tree behind him. When he fell to the ground, the dagger was stuck in his chest. The short and fat man twitched a few times and then stopped moving. He was as dead as he could be. The lanky man was completely scared. He didn't expect that Qin Haodong was so good that he killed his companion with one kick. Seeing this ghost-like young man walking towards him again, he could no longer care about the woman beside him. He turned around and ran, but before he could run 2 steps, he fell to the ground with a plop, and the spring in his hand fell to the ground. The knife in his hand had just pierced his throat. After killing these 2 people, Qin Haodong walked to the woman, reached out to pull the towel out of her mouth, and then pulled the rope on her body. "How are you? Are you all right?" The woman gasped after being released, and the panic on her face dissipated a little. She stood up from the ground and looked at Qin Haodong gratefully, saying, "Little brother, thank you so much. If it weren't for you, I would have been ruined today." The woman's voice was soft and sweet, and her voice was very pleasant, with a touch of charm. Qin Haodong looked at her. The woman was about 27 or 28 years old. Her face was delicate and beautiful, and she had a unique temperament. Her figure was tall and voluptuous, with curves all over her body. She was wearing a long white dress that was already torn to shreds, faintly revealing her snow-white skin. As long as a normal man saw it, his heart would be moved. It was no wonder that those 2 fellows had evil intentions. "It doesn't matter. I'm just passing by. Since there's nothing else, I'll go back." Qin Haodong said, "Sister, it's so late. You'd better go now, or you'll be in trouble if you meet bad guys again." After that, he turned around and was about to leave. "No!" The woman screamed in horror. She suddenly rushed up and hugged his arm. The exaggerated curve of her chest was tightly pressed against his arm. Due to the violent squeezing, the shape of her chest changed dramatically. "Don't go. Don't go. I'm afraid to be alone," the woman said as she looked at the 2 bodies on the ground. Her face was pale and bloodless. "Well, let's go together." Qin Haodong also felt that he was a little thoughtless. This was just an ordinary woman. It would be strange if she was not afraid to face 2 bodies in the middle of the night. However, he still pushed the woman away a little, and then they walked to the side of the road. They came to the street light, which was much better than in the dark woods. Qin Haodong pointed to the BMW and asked, "Is that your car?" Under the light, the woman's expression was much better. She said, "It's my car." Qin Haodong said, "It's all right now. You can drive home by yourself." "No, you can't go. I'm afraid to be alone," the woman said as she rushed up to Qin Haodong again and held his arm tightly. Under the light, the woman's appearance looked more enchanting. Her frightened expression made people want to pity her. Qin Haodong secretly sighed. She was really a natural stunner, as if she had a kind of innate charm. He said, "It's all right now. What's there to be afraid of when you drive back?" The woman said nervously, No, I just had an accident while driving." Then she told the story of how she had just been tied up. It turned out that when she was driving past here, a black shadow suddenly flashed in front of her. She hurriedly stepped on the brake, but she still bumped into the man. Seeing that she had bumped into someone, she hurriedly got out of the car to check. She didn't expect that the other party was a blackmailer. Even so, she accepted it. She originally thought that it would be fine to pay some money, but she didn't expect that the fat man called a tall and thin man came over. The two men saw her and tied her up and pulled her into the bushes. They wanted to do something bad to her. Fortunately, she met Chin Haodong later, otherwise the consequences would be unimaginable. "Little brother, please let me take your car. As long as you send me home, you can ask for as much money as you want." Chin Haodong nodded. It was normal for a woman to be afraid in such a big thing. "You don't have to pay. I can send you back, but what about your car?" "It doesn't matter. I'll lock it and leave it here. I'll pick it up tomorrow during the day." The woman went to lock the car and hurriedly ran back to Chin Haodong. It seemed that she was afraid to leave her here alone. After getting in the car and asking for the direction of the woman's home, Chin Haodong drove forward. After leaving here, the woman breathed a sigh of relief and got rid of the fear just now. "Little brother, thank you so much for saving me. My name is Shi Yumi." "What's your name?" "My name is Chin Haodong." The woman nodded and said, "Oh. Little brother, those two people are dead. Will they be okay? If the police find you, I can testify for you." "It doesn't matter. I'll find someone to deal with it." Chin Haodong took out his mobile phone and called Hu Xiaoxian, asking her to ask someone from the Shenyuan pavilion to deal with the bodies. After he hung up the phone, Shi Yumi asked, "Little brother, are you a policeman?" "I'm not a policeman. I'm a doctor." Chin Haodong didn't want the woman to ask too many questions, so he changed the topic and said, "Sister, it's dangerous for you to come out alone so late." Shi Yumi said, "I went to deliver goods tonight and came back a little late. I didn't expect to encounter such a thing. Anyway, you're a girl. You should be more careful at night. Why don't you ask your boyfriend to accompany you?" Shi Yumi said, "I want to, but I don't have a boyfriend." "Oh." Chin Haodong was quite surprised. Such a beautiful woman should have a lot of pursuers. How could she not have a boyfriend? "What about your family? Why didn't you ask them to accompany you?" Shi Yumi said, "I'm an orphan. I have no family. I've been alone since I was a child." As she spoke, a sad look appeared on her face. She looked both lovely and pitiful. Chin Haodong only glanced at her out of the corner of his eye, and he had an impulse to hold her in his arms and cherish her. He couldn't help but quickly look away and concentrate on driving. This woman's charm was too strong. The woman lived in a luxury apartment, which was not far from here. They had arrived downstairs while they were talking. Chin Haodong said, "Sister, since we're already home, I won't send you up." Shi Yumi said pitifully, "Little Chin, it's already the middle of the night. I'm really scared to be alone. Can you send me up?" "All right then, I'll be a good person to the end. I'll help you to the end." Chin Haodong parked the car and followed Shi Yumi upstairs. When they arrived at her home, Shi Yumi took out the key and opened the door. After pouring a glass of water, she said, "Little Chin, sit down and have a glass of water. I'll go change my clothes." Her long dress had been torn and she really couldn't wear it anymore. After saying that to Chin Haodong, she went into the bedroom. Chin Haodong was indeed a little thirsty. He picked up the glass of water and carefully checked it. He was immune to all kinds of poisons, but he had no resistance to aphrodisiac, which could stimulate the human body's potential. He had suffered twice, so he had developed a habit of vigilance. After checking it with the original spirit and confirming that there was no problem with the glass of water, he raised his head and drank it. At this time, Shi Yumi changed her clothes and came out. She was not wearing a formal suit, but a blue spaghetti nightdress. The nightgown wasn't long, and it revealed her jade-like skin and sexy collarbones. The hem of the dress revealed 2 white thighs, which looked extremely alluring under the light. Chin Haodong said, "Sister, you're home safely. The task is completed. I have to go. Little Qin, why don't you stay here tonight? Seeing Qin Haodong's shocked eyes, Shiyumi hurriedly explained, I don't mean anything else. It's just that it's too late. It's not safe for you to go back alone. I have 2 bedrooms and a living room. There's also a guest room. You can stay there. Chapter 751. No, I'm a man. There's nothing to be afraid of. After saying that, Qin Haodong turned around and walked out of the door, striding downstairs. Although Shiyumi was very beautiful and charming, he only regarded her as a passerby in his long life and did not want to have any contact with her anymore. The next day, at breakfast, Qin Haodong told everyone about Ouyang Shanshan. Lin Momo said with a smile, I told you. There's no need to go to a concert. From now on, Shanshan will be one of us. She can listen to any song she wants at any time. The little fellow also shouted excitedly, that's great. I like the big star Ouyang Shanshan the most. She will be my mother in the future. Qi Weiner also said, I've always been a fan of Ouyang Shanshan. I couldn't even get an autograph before, but now I can sleep in the same bed with her. Hu Shaoxian said with a smile, Sister Weiner, you may be thinking too much. Shanshan will definitely not want to sleep in the same bed with you. After she said that, everyone burst into laughter. Hearing that there was another big star's daughter-in-law, Chu Xianyue said excitedly, Son, since you have confirmed your relationship, when will you bring Shanshan to live with us? Qin Haodong said, Shanshan said that she would come over after dealing with things today. It should be soon. Zhang Tiniu hurried in and said, Boss, there's a woman outside the door. She wants to see you. Chu Xianyue said, maybe it's Shanshan. Let her in quickly. Zhang Tiniu turned around and walked out. After a while, he came in with a woman. This woman was wearing a white shirt and a pair of jeans. Her hair was combed into 2 braids. This somewhat outdated style of dressing exuded a fashionable aura on this woman. The little fellow stood up and shouted, Auntie, you're so beautiful. Only then did everyone realize that the person who came was not Ouyang Shanshan. Qin Haodong was slightly stunned. This woman was Shiyumi, whom he had saved last night. He didn't expect that she would come again this morning. He was about to speak when he saw Yi Qing greet him excitedly, Great designer, I didn't expect you to come to our house. Welcome. Seeing Yi Qing, Shiyumi was also a little surprised. She said, Miss Yi, I didn't expect you to live here. Yi Qing said, What? Isn't the great designer here for me? I didn't know Miss Yi lived here. Shiyumi glanced at Qin Haodong and said, I'm here to see Mr. Qin. Yi Qing pulled Qin Haodong over and said, Didn't you hear that the designer was looking for you? Hurry up and come over. Qin Haodong asked, Sister, do you know Shiyumi? Of course, Miss Shiyumi is the big boss of Liusu Clothing and also the chief designer. I'm a regular customer of theirs. Oh. Qin Haodong nodded. No wonder this woman gave people a fashionable feeling. It turned out that she was a fashion designer. He said, Sister Shi, what can I do for you? It's nothing much. It's just that I couldn't fall asleep after you left yesterday, so I made you a set of clothes as thanks. Shiyumi said as she handed over a bag in her hand. After she finished speaking, all the women in the living room widened their eyes. Yi Qing was even more surprised and said, Brat, didn't you say you went to the concert last night? Why did you go to Miss Shiyumi's house? I did go to the concert. Qin Haodong hurriedly told her what had happened when he met Shiyumi. Shiyumi then said, Mr. Qin saved me. I have nothing to thank him for, so I made him a suit. After figuring out the situation, Yi Qing said, I see. Then let's see the great designer's work. Then she took the bag from Shiyumi's hand and opened it. She took out a black suit from it. Qin Haodong said, Miss Shiyumi, in fact, you don't have to be so polite. Besides, you don't know my size. Will the suit you make fit me? Before Shiyumi could speak, Yi Qing said, "Brat, you don't know this. Shiyumi is the top fashion designer in Huaxia. No matter who it is, as long as she takes a look at it, the size will be the same. It's not that exaggerated." Shiyumi said, "I'm just guessing the size. Try it on and see if it fits. If it doesn't, I'll take it back and change it." Yi Qing directly took off Qin Haodong's pajamas and put on the white shirt brought by Shiyumi, followed by the black suit. It didn't take long for Qin Haodong to put on the suit. "Papa is so handsome." The little fellow was the first to applaud, and the other women also exclaimed. This suit was perfect for Qin Haodong. Not only did it fit him, but it also set off his perfect figure, making him look more handsome. Qin Haodong also secretly admired her. He didn't expect that this woman could calculate the size so accurately after taking a look at him. Every profession had its own master. "Miss Shiyumi, thank you." He didn't stand on ceremony and accepted the suit. "That's good." Shiyumi said, "Miss Yi, Mr. Qin, I'll go back first." Qin Haodong and Yi Qing walked Shiyumi out of the door. When they came back, Qin Haodong said, "Sister, how do you know Shiyumi? Is her clothing store very famous?" "It's more than famous. It's simply too famous." When it came to Shiyumi's Liusu clothing, Yi Qing's eyes lit up and she said, "In fact, very few rich people buy those brands. Basically, they find special designers to tailor their clothes for them. Liusu clothing is the top in the clothing custom-made industry. It's no exaggeration to say that more than half of the rich people in the capital have their clothes custom-made from them." Qin Haodong looked at his clothes and said, "Oh, I see. I have to say that her craftsmanship is really good. This dress is quite comfortable." Of course. Shiyumi is the owner of Liusu clothing and also the top fashion designer. She has won awards at the Paris Fashion Festival many times. "Do you think the clothes she makes are bad?" Qin Haodong said, "Is she so good? Then this set of clothes must be more expensive than the famous brands, right?" Yi Qing said, "The fashion designers of Liusu clothing are divided into 3 levels. The most popular one is a 1-star fashion designer, who is responsible for making clothes for ordinary rich people. Generally, the price of the clothes they make is more than 5 figures. The number of 2-star fashion designers is much smaller, and their level is higher. The clothes they make are more than 6 figures. As the boss, Shiyumi is the only 3-star designer of Liusu clothing. The design fee of a dress she makes is 7 figures. If she chooses the materials herself to make it, it will cost at least millions of yuan. Even so, the clothes she designed are still in short supply. Many rich people have to wait in line for more than half a year to get a dress designed by Shiyumi. Let me put it this way. Shiyumi's status in the clothing industry is no worse than your status in the medical industry." "Are you exaggerating?" Qin Haodong said as he looked at his clothes again. This was equivalent to wearing a luxury car. Yi Qing continued, "You can wear the clothes designed by Shiyumi not only because you have money, but also because of your status. There are many rich people in the capital, but only a few of them can wear the clothes made by Shiyumi. I waited in line for half a year before I had a dress made by her. She was the one who took the design plan, and other designers made it. Even so, this dress is still my collection. I only wear it when I attend a big event." Qin Haodong smiled. He didn't expect that his dress was not only valuable but also of a high status. "Brother, since you have a relationship with Shiyumi, you should talk to her and ask her to make more dresses for me. If you can marry her and treat her as your sister-in-law, that would be the best. Our family won't have to worry about clothes in the future." Yi Qing just said it casually, but her eyes suddenly lit up. "Boy, why don't you give it a try? Shiyumi is really single now." Qin Haodong said with a wry smile, "Sister, you can't ask me to chase after her for a dress, can you? If one day you like another female chef's dishes, do you think I'll marry her?" Yi Qing reached out and pinched his waist. "What's wrong? She Yumi is a one-in-a-million beauty. You seem to feel aggrieved. Qin Haodong said, it's not a matter of beauty. It's a matter of principle. Yi Qin glared at him and said, as if you are very principled. Then what's the matter with our beautiful women? Qin Haodong didn't know what to say. He looked embarrassed. Fortunately, the cell phone in his pocket rang at this time. He quickly took out his cell phone and ran aside to answer the call. Yi Qin didn't wait for him and went back alone. The call was from Su Hui. After the call was connected, she said, Haodong, where are you? Why didn't you come today? She was a little nervous as she spoke. She was really afraid that Qin Haodong would ignore her after what had happened yesterday. I was delayed by something here. I'll be there now. After last night's concert, Qin Haodong's concept of love had changed a little. He didn't want to let down the people who loved him, including the girl who had gone to the capital for him. He hung up the phone and drove directly to the Donghui Clinic of Traditional Chinese Medicine. At first, he thought that Su Hui called him because there were too many patients and she was too busy. However, when he arrived, he found a sign hanging on the door saying that the clinic was closed. What's wrong, Su Hui? Is something wrong? No, I just have something to do today, so I'm closed. Su Hui looked up and was immediately stunned when she saw Qin Haodong. What's wrong? Don't you recognize me? Qin Haodong was secretly amused. It seemed that it was true that Buddha needed gold and people needed clothes. He was really handsome in a luxury car. Su Hui came to her senses and said with a little shyness, No, I just feel that you are a little different today. What's different? Have I become more handsome? Yes. Su Hui nodded with a complicated expression. The man in front of her was becoming more and more charming, which made her more and more unable to extricate herself. However, he didn't accept her feelings. Qin Haodong smiled and said, What's the matter? Do you need my help? Su Hui said, Last night, when I was closing the door, I met a junior high school classmate. He has been working hard in the capital for many years. He said that today is a classmates' party in the capital and invited me to attend. I don't think it's good to refuse, so I decided to go and have a look. Qin Haodong took over the topic and said, But your classmate has always liked you and even pursued you. You think it's not convenient, so you want me to go with you, right? Yes. Su Hui nodded and said in a low voice, I want you to pretend to be my boyfriend so that they won't pester me. They? Qin Haodong said with a smile, It seems that there are many people pursuing you. Chapter 752. Su Hui said shyly, Not too many. There are a few people at the party. Qin Haodong was not surprised by this. It would be strange if no one pursued a beauty like Su Hui. What do you think? Can you go with me? I don't agree. Qin Haodong refused directly. Su Hui's eyes flashed with sadness and even a trace of despair. She had done so much, but in the end, she still couldn't win this man's heart. He didn't even agree to pretend to be her boyfriend. But at this moment, Qin Haodong reached out and grabbed her shoulder. He stared into her eyes and said, If you want to do it for real. Su Hui was instantly stunned. She couldn't believe her ears. Was he really going to accept her? What are you talking about? Can you say it again? Qin Haodong said with a smile, Are you willing to be my girlfriend? At this moment, Su Hui's heart was filled with great happiness. Tears of happiness immediately flowed down her white cheeks. Qin Haodong raised his hand to wipe away her tears and said, Why are you crying? Don't you want to be my girlfriend? I do. Su Hui nodded hurriedly and then plunged into Qin Haodong's arms. She had waited for this day for a long time. Today, happiness finally came. They hugged each other for a long time, and Su Hui said softly, Is this true? I'm not dreaming, am I? Qin Haodong cupped her cheek and kissed her delicate red lips hard. Then he said, Do you feel it? Are you dreaming? Haodong, I feel it. It's true. It's not a dream. I'm so happy. Woo, woo. Before Su Hui could finish her words, her mouth was blocked by Qin Haodong again. An hour later, Su Hui, who had dressed up carefully, took Qin Haodong's arm. They appeared downstairs of the Taotai restaurant together. Looking at the magnificent restaurant in front of him, Qin Haodong felt a little funny. Su Hui's classmates had set the venue of the party in his own property. However, this wasn't too bad either. The more he earned, the better. He walked into the restaurant with Su Hui. After taking over the Taotai restaurant and the Heaven-Earth trading building, the experienced Uncle Wang asked the people in charge of the two restaurants to go to the Tang sect to meet Qin Haodong. However, the middle-level and lower-level employees didn't know that the young man in front of them was their boss. The two of them went upstairs and arrived at a platinum VIP room on the 8th floor. The private room was very big and could accommodate about 20 people. There were already more than 10 people sitting inside, both men and women, who were chatting in full swing. Seeing Su Hui enter the door, a man in a suit with a flat-top haircut immediately came up to her. He was Zhang Tong, who had invited Su Hui to the class reunion. When they were in middle school, Zhang Tong had been pursuing Su Hui, but there was no result. After graduating from junior high school, he followed his family to the capital and had made some achievements in the business world over the years. After meeting her by chance yesterday, he was immediately stunned by Su Hui's beauty, so he tried his best to invite her to attend today's class reunion. Of course, he had his own purpose behind the invitation. "Students, look, our great beauty Su is here," he said and greeted her enthusiastically, but then his face immediately darkened when he saw Qin Haodong next to her. Su Hui said, "Let me introduce you. This is my boyfriend, Qin Haodong." This. Su Hui, why did you bring your boyfriend here? Su Hui said, "What's wrong? Can't I bring my boyfriend to the party today? If not, we'll go back." If these classmates really didn't accept Qin Haodong, she would leave without hesitation. They had just gotten together, and she didn't want their relationship to be affected by the pursuit of these boring classmates. "Welcome, of course." Zhang Tong smiled awkwardly and then let the two of them into the private room. Seeing the handsome Qin Haodong, a look of jealousy flashed across the faces of several other male classmates, while several other female classmates immediately screamed, "Hui Hui, your boyfriend is so handsome. No wonder you have rejected so many people over the years. It turns out that there is such a handsome man waiting for you." Seeing these infatuated female classmates, the faces of Zhang Tong and the two male classmates next to him became more and more gloomy. The other two male classmates were called Zhao Pu and Jin Haiyang. The three of them had pursued Su Hui in middle school, but at this time, they formed an alliance in an instant. The three of them looked at each other and felt that they couldn't let this toy boy steal their limelight. They had to find a way to suppress his arrogance. Zhang Tong took the lead and said, "Students, we haven't seen each other for so many years. It's not easy for us to get together today. I don't know what you are doing. I suggest that we introduce ourselves and get to know each other. If we can be useful in the future, we can help each other. After all, we have been classmates for many years." Zhao Pu immediately said, "That's a good idea. Let's start with you." Zhang Tong said, "My family has been in the capital for some years. Now we are in the medical equipment business. Su Hui, if your clinic needs anything, just tell me. All kinds of equipment will be provided free of charge. Of course, I also have many friends in the capital over the years. If you have difficulties in other industries, you can also turn to me. For example, the general manager of the Taotai Hotel today is my friend. If I didn't have some connections, I wouldn't have been able to book a platinum private room here." "Yes. Good, Zhang Tong has been doing a good job these years. He can be regarded as a respected figure in the capital." Zhao Pu clapped a few times symbolically and then said, "I can't compare with a big boss like Zhang Tong. I have been in the entertainment industry for the past few years. Now I am working in the finance department of the Dongxing Entertainment Company. Jin Haiyang said, you have a lot of big stars in the entertainment industry, right? Zhao Pu said proudly, of course. There are a lot of stars that you can't see at all. For example, Ouyang Shanshan, the big star who held a concert yesterday. She is the boss of our Dongxing Entertainment Company. You can see her at work every day, not to mention other stars. Awesome. That's awesome. Zhang Tong said and gave him a thumbs up. Ouyang Shanshan is a superstar in our country. If you follow her, maybe you will become a star one day. You flatter me, flatter me. Zhao Pu said to Jin Haiyang next to him, it's your turn. Tell me, what have you been busy with these years? Jin Haiyang said, I'm also busy. I haven't made much progress in these years. I'm a supplier for the Heaven-Earth Trading Building. He said modestly, but there was an unconcealable pride on his face. Zhang Tong said, I've been in the capital for so many years, and I know the Heaven-Earth Trading Building. It's the largest shopping mall in the capital. You must be powerful to be a supplier there. You must have made a lot of money over the years. Jin Haiyang waved his hand and said proudly, it's nothing. It's only tens of millions of yuan a year. It's just a small business to make a living. Tens of millions and you say you can make a living? How are you going to let us live? Zhao Pu looked at Su Hui as he spoke, thinking that this little girl should be touched after hearing about his brother's achievements. But to his disappointment, Su Hui didn't even look at them. Except when someone talked to her, she had been looking at Qin Haodong next to her with affection. He couldn't help secretly making up his mind. He would seize the opportunity to mock this toy boy later. The self-introduction continued, and soon it was Su Hui's turn. I just opened a traditional Chinese medicine clinic in the capital and I'm a doctor there. Great, great. After Su Hui finished speaking, Zhang Tong immediately applauded. Hui's grandfather is a professor at my medical college. I believe that Hui's medical skills are not bad. She will definitely become a famous doctor in the future. After that, he looked at Qin Haodong and said, brother, you look extraordinary. Where do you work? Qin Haodong smiled and said, I'm not your classmate. Forget it. Zhao Pu said, that's not okay. We're finally sitting together today. Even if you and Su Hui separate in the future, we'll still be friends. If you're in trouble, just let us know. We'll definitely help you. Jin Haiyang also said, yes, we've all introduced ourselves. Are you afraid that they'll want to flatter you? Although he said so, his eyes were full of contempt. Qin Haodong said lightly, then let me introduce myself. I'm Qin Haodong. I don't have a job now. I'm helping Su Hui's clinic. After he finished speaking, Zhang Tong and the others immediately laughed contemptuously. They had been busy for a long time, waiting for this moment. Zhao Pu immediately seized the opportunity and said, brother, you're young and promising. It's definitely not something ordinary people can do to help Su Hui. Excuse me, are you helping to clean up? Or are you helping to serve tea? Just now, they had belittled Qin Haodong by showing off, but now their words had become naked ridicule. Qin Haodong clearly saw through the mentality of these people in front of him. He knew that they were obviously envious of him, but he just smiled and did not take it to heart. He didn't care, but Su Hui couldn't. She couldn't allow the person she liked to be insulted. What are you talking about? Haodong is just being modest. His medical skills are very high, hundreds of times better than mine. Her words were completely from the bottom of her heart, but in the ears of Zhang Tong and the others, she was completely protecting Qin Haodong. They knew that Su Hui's medical skills were inherited from old master Su Hongba, but Qin Haodong was so young. How could he have such high medical skills? However, seeing that Su Hui was angry, they immediately adjusted their strategy and changed it to a long-term plan to catch a big fish. Zhang Tong said, Hui, don't worry. We're just joking with brother Qin. Don't take it seriously. Zhao Pu also quickly said, yes, I'm just joking. Don't take it seriously. After that, the other students also chatted for a while to ease the awkward atmosphere. After a while, Jin Haiyang looked at Zhang Tong's suit and said, your suit is good. How much did it cost? Seeing the look in Jin Haiyang's eyes, Zhang Tong immediately understood his intention. Just now, they saw that there was no logo on Qin Haodong's suit, so they thought that it was a cheap product. They wanted to make a fuss in this regard and show off. Zhang Tong pulled his collar and said, my suit is not too expensive. It's more than 50,000 yuan from Armani. Jin Haiyang said, the quality of Armani's clothes is good. More than 50,000 yuan is not expensive. My Prada casual suit is more than 60,000 yuan. Zhao Pu also understood their intention. He pretended to be surprised and said, you are all rich. A suit of clothes is so expensive. My suit is cheaper. It's more than 40,000 yuan from Versace. Hearing that their clothes were so expensive, other students from ordinary families sighed with emotion. A female classmate next to Su Hui said, I didn't expect that we would all become rich after not seeing each other for a few years. I have to work for a year to earn this suit of clothes. Another classmate followed and said, yes, a suit of clothes costs 50,000 to 60,000 yuan. It's equivalent to wearing a small pickup truck. Jin Haiyang said proudly, it's nothing. It's just a little money. Chapter 753. Seeing that it was about time, Zhang Tong looked at Qin Haodong and said, Brother Qin, your suit looks good. How much is it? Where did you buy it? What brand is it? Can you introduce it to us? Qin Haodong smiled. These people were really blind. Couldn't they see the quality and workmanship of his suit? They even wanted to compete with him in clothes. Weren't they looking for trouble? In fact, he didn't understand what Zhang Tong and the others were thinking. For small bosses like them, the most important thing was the brand of the clothes. They had never touched the level of handmade clothes at all. Although the quality and style of the suit made by Shi Yumi were top-notch, they naturally didn't take it seriously because they didn't see the brand of the clothes. Although he thought so in his heart, he didn't want to compare with these people. It was too boring. He smiled and said, I didn't buy this suit. It was a gift from someone. It's handmade and there's no brand. Zhang Tong immediately laughed and said, it's handmade. Now there are not many people who make clothes by hand. Zhao Pu said, I thought Brother Qin bought this suit from a street stall. I was wrong. Even if it's from a street stall, it should have a brand, Jin Haiyang said, Brother Qin, it's a little disrespectful to wear this kind of handmade clothes to a classmate party. In the future, you should talk to Hui Hui and ask her to buy you a few sets of clothes with brands. You'll look good in them. These people's words were full of sarcasm. In the end, Jin Haiyang went even further and directly concluded that Qin Haodong was a toy boy raised by Su Hui. You've gone too far. Su Hui was so angry that her face turned red and she was about to lose her temper. Qin Haodong patted her thigh and motioned for her not to be angry. At this moment, the door of the private room opened and a little girl with glasses ran in. Sorry, I'm late. The little girl was also Su Hui's classmate. Her name was Su Jiejia. You're not late. You're a great designer. It's normal for you to be a little late because you're busy with work. Zhang Tong said as he let Su Jiejia in and then introduced her. Let me tell you, Jiejia is now a great designer in Liusu clothing. A female classmate said in surprise, Jiejia, it's true. The clothes in Liusu clothing are very expensive. Any set costs tens of thousands of yuan. Zhang Tong, who was very familiar with Su Jiejia's family situation, rushed to say, of course, the clothing design of Liusu clothing is the most fashionable in Huaxia. Jiejia is now a big designer, and her future is limitless. Su Jejia smiled and said, "It's not that exaggerated. I'm still a one-star designer." Jin Haiyang said, "Jejia, you are too modest. As long as you can enter the threshold of Liusu clothing, it is a success. Your monthly salary is at least 5 figures now, right?" Su Jejia nodded. "It's all right. Jejia, you're being modest again. We're all classmates. What's there to be embarrassed about?" Zhang Tongji took over Su Jejia's bragging. Jejia's monthly salary is 70,000 to 80,000 yuan. If she becomes a 2-star designer, her monthly salary will be hundreds of thousands. Su Jejia said, "The treatment of Liusu clothing is really good, but it's too difficult to become a 2-star designer. After all, the people who can enter our company are very outstanding. Now the competition is very fierce." Speaking of this, she sighed slightly. Recently, she had been competing with several other designers for the promotion of a 2-star designer, but now it seemed that the hope was very slim. "Jejia, you are already very great now." Zhao Pu took the lead in applauding. They had a purpose for praising Su Jejia. At this time, Zhang Tong said, "Great designer, Brother Qin said that his clothes are also handmade, and they are probably worth a lot of money. Can you help me check them?" Su Jejia had been surrounded by everyone since she entered the door. At this time, she saw Qin Haodong opposite her. She couldn't help but say in surprise, "Is he also our classmate? When did we have such a handsome classmate in our class?" Hearing her classmate praising the person she liked, a charming smile bloomed on her originally tense face. "Jejia, let me introduce him to you. This is my boyfriend, Qin Haodong." "Hui, you are getting more and more beautiful, and your boyfriend is really handsome." Su Jejia suddenly stopped and stared at Qin Haodong with a dull look. After a while, she came to her senses and stood up from her seat. She walked to Qin Haodong's side and reached out to touch the black suit he was wearing. Her expression was as if she was touching a rare treasure. The female students opposite her were all shocked by her performance. What was going on? Was Su Jejia crazy and fell in love with this toy boy? Zhang Tong said, "Jejia, did you see it clearly? You're not scared by this suit, are you? Is the workmanship too rough and the price too low? If that's the case, we can donate some money to buy him a set of branded clothes." "Shut up." Su Jejia, who had been smiling since she entered the door, now stopped Zhang Tong with a stern look. "What do you know, you bumpkin? This is a suit made by Shi Yumi, the big boss of Liusu Clothing and the chief designer." Zhang Tong was shocked. He didn't care about being called a bumpkin and said in shock, "Jejia, how is this possible? Are you sure you're not mistaken? It's a masterpiece made by our boss." "How could I be mistaken?" Su Jejia turned around and said to Qin Haodong, "Mr. Qin, can I have a look at your suit?" Qin Haodong knew that it was impossible to keep a low profile now, so he nodded slightly. Su Jejia reached out to roll up his cuff and saw 3 gold stars embroidered on his wrist. She immediately confirmed her guess just now. She raised her head and said to everyone, "In our Liusu Clothing, if it's designed by a 1-star designer, there will be a silver star embroidered on the cuff. If it's made by a 1-star designer, there will be a gold star embroidered on it. In the same way, if it's made by a 2-star designer, there will be 2 gold stars embroidered on the cuff, and Mr. Qin's suit has 3 gold stars. And the only 3-star designer in our Liusu Clothing is our boss, Miss Shi Yumi. There's no doubt that this suit was made by our boss herself." After hearing her introduction, another classmate said in surprise, "The clothes of Liusu Clothing are so expensive. The boss made it herself, so the price must be very high. Is it worth more than 100,000 yuan? More than 100,000 yuan?" Su Jejia chuckled. It was really poverty that limited one's imagination. "Our boss, Miss Shi Yumi, is the top designer in Huaxia, and she can even rank in the top 10 in the world. She often wins the first prize in major fashion fairs. The design fee of the clothes she designs is more than 7 figures, and our boss rarely makes clothes herself. The price of the clothes she makes is at least millions. Oh my God, a piece of clothing costs millions. It's really extravagant. Just now, they said that their clothes are like pickup trucks, but this is a super luxurious sports car. It's really incomparable. It's true that there's no harm without comparison. Zhang Tong's clothes just now look awesome, but compared with this one, it's trash. Su Jejia seemed to want to continue. She continued, even an ordinary rich man can't make our boss do it in person with tens of millions of yuan. So to be able to wear the clothes made by our boss is not just a matter of money, but a symbol of status. Zhang Tong, Zhao Pu, and Jin Haiyang were completely dumbfounded. They wanted to find a piece of tofu and kill themselves. They had never expected that Qin Haodong's clothes without any logo would have such a powerful background. One of the sleeves could buy a whole set of their clothes. If they had known this, they would not have competed with Qin Haodong on clothes. Wouldn't they be looking for trouble? After Su Jejia finished speaking, she turned to Su Hui and said, Hui, you're so lucky to have such an excellent boyfriend like Mr. Qin. Since they entered the door, Zhang Tong and the others had been trying to make fun of Qin Haodong, which made Su Hui very angry. Now Su Jejia helped her vent her anger, and she immediately felt as refreshed as eating ice cream in the hottest days of summer. It's nothing, Jejia. You can find a better boyfriend in the future. Su Jejia hesitated for a moment, and then said to Qin Haodong, Mr. Qin, can you do me a favor? Qin Haodong also had a good impression of this little girl with glasses. He said, if there's anything you need, just tell me. As long as it's within my power, I can do it. Su Jejia said with some embarrassment, recently, our company is taking the 2-star designer examination, and the quota is very tight. Can you help me put in a word with the boss? She was a very smart girl. Since Shi Yumi could make the clothes herself, the relationship between the two of them must be unusual. Zhang Tong and the others immediately widened their eyes. They hoped that Su Jejia had made a mistake. They hoped that the clothes were not made by Shi Yumi, and they didn't want Qin Haodong to have anything to do with Liusu clothing. But they were disappointed. Qin Haodong smiled and said, no problem. I'm happy to help anyone who is close to Su Hui. Being promoted to a second-level designer was a big deal for Su Jejia, but Qin Haodong didn't take it seriously at all. He directly took out his mobile phone and dialed Shi Yumi's number. Shi Yumi's pleasant voice immediately came from the other side of the phone. Haodong, why did you call me so soon? Is there anything wrong with the clothes? Unconsciously, she directly changed Qin Haodong's name to Haodong, which was more intimate. No, the clothes are very good. They fit me very well. Qin Haodong said, here's the thing, sister. I have a friend working in your company. Her name is Su Jejia. If it's convenient, please take care of her for me. Shi Yumi said softly, don't say that. The company belongs to me. It's not convenient. Since she's your friend, I naturally have to take care of her. Well, we're evaluating 2-star designers recently, so I'll let her be promoted directly. Well, I'll thank you on behalf of Jejia, sister. After that, Qin Haodong hung up and put away his mobile phone. The private room was very quiet when he was on the phone just now. Several people nearby heard the conversation between Qin Haodong and Su Jejia clearly. Su Jejia's face was full of excitement. It should be noted that there was a huge difference between a 2-star designer and a 1-star designer in Liusu clothing. Being promoted from a 1-star designer to a 2-star designer could be said to be a meteoric rise. Not only would their salary increase several times, but their status would also be greatly improved. Originally, she had no hope of being promoted this time. She didn't expect to meet Qin Haodong at a class reunion. He solved the problem that had troubled her for a long time with just a phone call. Mr. Qin, thank you. Thank you so much. She was so excited that she didn't know what to say. Su Hui said, Jejia, you're too polite. We're all classmates. It's only right for me to help you. Zhang Tong had organized this class reunion, but he didn't expect that the spotlight would be stolen by this toy boy in the blink of an eye. He immediately said sourly, "Jejia, don't be too naive. There are many liars nowadays. Who knows if it's true or not? Maybe the person on the other side of the phone isn't your boss at all." This chapter is for the big boss, fat cat rolling around. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.